Maya and I have been married for 21 years, and we've known each other for 26. When we first got together, things were great. We were young, in love, and everything seemed possible. But over time, things took a turn for the worse. Maya was always determined, and I used to like that about her. She knew what she wanted and went after it without hesitation. But over the years, her determination became something else. Now, it feels like every day we're arguing. She's always picking on me, pointing out every little thing. It feels like nothing I do is ever good enough for her. At first, I try to brush it off. She's just stressed, I told myself. Work is tough, and she's dealing with a lot. But the excuses started to wear thin. The harsh words, the constant nitpicking, it all started to take a toll on me. I found myself dreading coming home, knowing that another argument was just around the corner. I tried to talk to her about it, hoping we could work things out. But every time I brought it up, it turned into another fight. She'd accuse me of being too sensitive, of not being able to handle a strong woman. But it's not about that. I love strong women. I loved her for her strength. But there's a difference between being strong and being cruel. I miss the Maya I fell in love with, the one who laughed with me, who supported me, who made me feel like I could conquer the world. Now, I just feel like I'm constantly walking on eggshells, waiting for the next blow-up. I've thought about leaving more times than I can count, but it's not that simple. We've built a life together. We have a home, memories, shared dreams. And despite everything, I still love her. I remember the good times, and it breaks my heart to think of throwing it all away. But how much more can I take? Every day, I feel myself getting closer to the edge, closer to the point where I just can't do it anymore. I don't want to give up on us, but I don't know how to fix it either. I wish she could see what she's doing to me, to us. I wish she could remember the love we once had and find a way back to it. But right now, that feels like a distant dream, and I'm left wondering how much longer I can hold on. Maybe it's time for a change. Maybe it's time to put myself first for once. Because as much as I love Maya, I can't keep living like this. I deserve to be happy too. I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to talk to her about how I was feeling, hoping against hope that she would understand. As I approached her, I could already feel the tension building. Maya, can we talk for a minute? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She sighed heavily, barely glancing up from her phone. What is it now, David? I'm busy. I know, but I really need to talk to you about something that's been bothering me, I said, my heart pounding in my chest. Oh great, here we go again, she said with a scoff. What did I do this time? It's not about what you did, I began, choosing my words carefully. It's about how you speak to me. Lately, it feels like you are constantly criticizing me, and it's really wearing me down. Are you serious? She snapped, her eyes narrowing. You're being overly sensitive again. You need to toughen up. Life isn't all sunshine and rainbows. It's not about being sensitive, I tried to explain. It's about feeling respected and valued. I feel like nothing I do is ever good enough for you. She rolled her eyes. Oh please, you're just looking for something to complain about. Maybe if you actually did something right for a change, I wouldn't have to criticize you all the time. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Maya, I'm serious. This constant berating is making me miserable. I miss the way we used to be, when we could talk to each other without all this negativity. She laughed bitterly. Well, maybe if you weren't so useless, we wouldn't have this problem. Maybe the issue isn't me. Maybe it's you. I felt a lump forming in my throat. I'm trying, Maya. I'm really trying. But I can't keep doing this if things don't change. We need to work on this together. Work on what? She snapped. You're the one with the problem, not me. I'm not going to change just because you're too weak to handle a little criticism. I stood there, speechless, feeling the last bit of hope draining away. It was clear she wasn't willing to see my side of things. I didn't know what to do next, but one thing was certain, I couldn't keep living like this. A few days later, I stumbled upon something that shattered what little was left of my hope. I found out that Maya was cheating on me with my longtime nemesis from high school, Alex. The betrayal cut deep, much deeper than I ever thought possible. I found the evidence by accident. I was cleaning up the living room when Maya's phone buzzed on the coffee table. Normally, I wouldn't invade her privacy, but curiosity got the better of me. The message preview on the screen was from Alex, and it read, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Love you." My heart sank. I scrolled through their messages, each one more incriminating than the last. There were pictures, intimate conversations, plans for secret meetups. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Maya had been betraying me, and with Alex of all people, I felt a mix of rage and devastation. How could she do this to me? How could she betray our marriage and everything we had built together? And with Alex, the person who had tormented me throughout high school, it felt like a cruel joke. That night, I confronted her. She didn't even bother to deny it. She just looked at me with a cold indifference and said, "Well, now you know." The anger boiled over. "How long has this been going on, Maya? How long have you been sneaking around behind my back?" I demanded. She shrugged, seemingly unfazed by my pain. "A few months, maybe longer. Does it really matter?" "Of course it matters," I shouted, feeling the tears welling up in my eyes. "You betrayed me. You destroyed our marriage." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, stop being so dramatic, David. You were never enough for me. Alex actually makes me feel alive." Her words stung, but they also gave me a strange sense of clarity. This was it. This was the final straw. There was no saving our marriage. Maya had made her choice, and now I had to make mine. "I'm done," I said quietly, my voice trembling. "I'm done with this marriage. I'm done with you." She just stared at me, expressionless. "Fine. Whatever. Do what you have to do." The next morning, I contacted a lawyer and started the divorce proceedings. It hurt, and it was going to be a long, painful process, but I knew it was the right thing to do. I deserved better than this. I deserved to be happy. As I packed my things and prepared to leave, I felt a strange sense of relief. This was the end of a painful chapter, but it was also the beginning of a new one. For the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. I didn't know what it would bring, but I knew I had the strength to face it. Discovering Maya's betrayal with Alex was the final blow. I had no choice but to start divorce proceedings, but I wasn't going to let her walk away easily. Luckily, we had a prenuptial agreement in place that would protect my assets and ensure that I wouldn't have to pay alimony. As the divorce process unfolded, I fought tooth and nail to ensure that the prenup was honored. It wasn't just about the money, it was about standing up for myself after all the years of emotional abuse and now infidelity. My lawyer was relentless, and we gathered every piece of evidence needed to prove Maya's infidelity. Maya was predictably furious when she realized that she wouldn't be getting any of my assets or alimony. She had expected to walk away with a significant portion of our wealth, but the prenup and the evidence of her affair left her with nothing. One evening, as we were finalizing the details, she confronted me in the courtroom, her eyes blazing with anger. "You really think you've won, don't you?" she spat. I looked at her, feeling a mix of sadness and resolve. "This isn't about winning, Maya. It's about what's fair. You betrayed me, and now you have to face the consequences." She sneered, but there was a glimmer of resignation in her eyes. "Fine. Keep your money, David. I don't need it. Alex and I will be just fine without you." Hearing her mention Alex so casually, as if our years together meant nothing, still hurt, but I stood firm. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Maya." The divorce was finalized soon after, and I kept everything I had worked so hard for. Maya, despite her initial anger, seemed almost relieved to be rid of me. Without the burden of legal battles, she wasted no time moving on, making plans to marry Alex. During all this, my daughter, Chloe, walked the tightrope between both her parents. She did, however, give a piece of her mind to her mother when the details of her affair with Alex came out. As I watched Maya pack up the last of her things, there was a strange sense of closure. The woman I had loved for so long was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. But that was okay. I was ready to move forward, to rebuild my life without the constant negativity and betrayal. Maya's departure was both a loss and a liberation. There were times I was so happy that Maya was now out of my life. Had she not cheated, I might have filed for divorce myself. I might have lost more than what I lost now. Good riddance, I must say. There are times when someone wants to steal something from you, but does not know that you really wanted to get rid of that same thing. Well, Alex just did that for me. If she becomes half of the demon that she was during my marriage to her, Alex is going to have a really tough life. For me, it was time to start anew and find happiness on my own terms. Life moved on, and I moved ahead. A few months later, they say the sense of smell is the strongest of the five senses. It can bring back memories even from your childhood. The fragrance I smelled when I opened my mailbox wasn't from my childhood, but I recognized it immediately. It brought back memories and turned my mood foul. The fragrance was Tom Ford Oud Wood. It had been Maya's favorite for most of our marriage. I knew why I was smelling it. She must have sent me an invitation to her upcoming wedding. What a witch. Like I want to go see her joining her lover in marriage. I already knew that he was joining her in our marital bed. That is why she is now my ex-wife. I rifled through the mail, setting the bills and junk mail to the side until I saw it. Of course, it was an ornate envelope with my name and address hand calligraphed in deep blue ink. Maya's favorite color, the color of royalty, she would say when anyone asked her. Royalty? Huh. She was no closer to royalty than my dog, which she took in the divorce. Am I bitter? Hell yes, I am. She cheated on me with my lifelong nemesis and took my dog. Taking the dog was the more cruel of the two. I wouldn't even have opened the invitation except that I wanted to know when the wedding was so I could conveniently be out of town. July 15th at 4 p.m. I'm sure I could find somewhere else to be. I looked at the name of the place where the ceremony was going to be held. I couldn't believe she was actually getting remarried in a church, not just any church, but the most prestigious and pompous church in the city. How could she even think of getting married in a church after she cheated on me? Oh, but her new husband was rich, so I guess only the best for her. I ceremoniously threw the invitation into the wastebasket. I had been in a great mood before I came home. Now my mood was sour. It had been a good day at work. One of the newer office staff, Olivia, had stopped by my cubicle, and we flirted a little. At least I hope she was flirting and not just being nice. This last year and a half had been a tough one, but her attention really boosted my ego and lifted my spirits. I thought about my ex-wife. We had had 24 years together, 22 as husband and wife. I grabbed a beer out of the fridge, turned on the TV, and plopped down on the couch. I'm not sure how long I was sitting there, but it must have been a while. When I went to take the last swig of beer from the bottle, the beer was warm. I looked at the bottle and was contemplating grabbing another one when my phone rang. It was my daughter, Chloe. Hello, sweetheart, I said. Hey, Dad, how are you doing? Well, I was doing great until I got home and grabbed the mail. So you must have gotten the invitation today too, she stated. Yeah, can you believe it? Sorry, Dad. I told her she shouldn't send you one, but she insisted, saying, he's got to get over it. He can come to the wedding if for no other reason than to see his daughter as a bridesmaid. Well, I have no intention of going. I already threw the invitation into the trash where it can join her. Dad, would you reconsider? Honey, I'm planning on being out of town that weekend, I declared. Dad, I really want you to be there. I will need you there for support. You know I don't really want to be in the wedding, but she made me feel guilty. She wanted me to be the maid of honor, but I told her no way. Chloe, you don't need my support. Ethan will be there to support you. Dad, what are you going to do next year when Ethan and I get married? Are you going to avoid that wedding too? Of course not, sweetheart. I can't wait to walk you down the aisle and give you away. So you'll have to be in the same church with them next year. Can't you be the better man and come to this one? I don't think I am the better man, honey, I said to her. Well, think about it, Dad. I really want you to be there with me. Well, think about it, I told her. I would have to think about it. I would have to really think about it. I don't think I can be the better man and put this behind me. Maya and I were supposed to be married for life. I guess she wanted to trade up rather than stick with the old model. As I sat there thinking, I decided to try to do something that I had done a number of times throughout my life. When I was young, I was instructed to write down my problems. Putting it down on paper helps to deal with each concern or issue instead of the whole problem. As I was writing, I decided that probably the fact that Alex, her new husband, had been my rival since junior high made the betrayal even worse. I knew that I wouldn't be able to tell him face-to-face how I felt, so I decided to write it down. I had no intentions of giving it to him, but it would help me to get it off my chest. Alex, well, I guess the best man has one. Maya has chosen to be with you for the rest of your life. Ever since junior high, we've been in competition. You truly were my arch-rival. Even in high school, we were competing. Maya had been someone we competed for, but she chose someone else. Later, while you were at college, she chose me. But I guess even after all these years, you couldn't stand that Maya had married me. One would think that you would have gotten past it. But no, you had to pursue her just because she was mine. Sure, I'm pissed at you, but I'm really pissed at my loving wife, or rather, my ex-wife. The fact that she succumbed to your advances showed me that even after 24 years, I didn't really know her. When we first started dating, we would tell each other all of our hopes, dreams, and even our fears for hours on end. By the end of our marriage, we didn't talk much. I didn't talk much. She did all of the talking. On and on. I guess I should have been listening more. Maybe I would have heard the alarms warning me that she was leaving me. I keep thinking of all the things about Maya that I used to love. Now you will be the one to experience all that makes her her. You'll get to wake up next to her and see her au naturel. You will be the only one to ever see her that way. No makeup, hair in the morning, bedhead style, and the morning breath. She'll immediately go to the bathroom to brush both her hair and her teeth as well as put on layers of makeup. You may want to get into the bathroom before her, or else you'll be waiting an hour. After I had written those words, I set the pages down and decided to go out to the bar to take my mind off my problems. I'm a little ashamed to say that I had to get an Uber to take me home because I was too drunk to drive. The next day was Saturday, so I slept off my hangover. In fact, I didn't get out of bed until noon. I just couldn't find a reason to get up before then. The smell of my body sweating out the alcohol finally made me get up, for no other reason than to take a shower and grab a bite to eat. I felt better after my shower, so I decided to grab a burger at the pub. I had to Uber back to get my car anyway. The burger helped, as well as a little hair of the dog that bit me. That next week, I was still down. Olivia had noticed and asked me what was wrong. I told her, issues with my ex. She hadn't worked there when all of my troubles started, so she didn't know the whole story. David, she said, let's go grab a bite to eat after work. I hate seeing you so glum. I would hate to have my sour mood rub off on such a happy person, I told her. Nonsense. Maybe I'm just what you need to get you out of your funk. There it was, her flirting again. Or was it totally innocent? I've been out of the game for so long, I couldn't be sure of anything. Well, dinner was nice. We sat and talked. She asked me about what had happened with Maya. She could tell by the emotional answers I was giving that I still harbored a lot of hate for my ex and her lover. I apologized for going on about all my issues and asked her about her relationships. She told me about her marriage to a drunk and then a long-term relationship 6 years with a guy that decided he didn't want to ever get married. She struggled with that. Did he not love her? Did he want to play the field? She wanted to have children but couldn't see having them without being married. She needed commitment, an assurance that he was going to be there for the long haul. As we ate, we talked, taking turns discussing all kinds of topics. It was obvious to me that we had a lot in common: politics, religion, family values, vacations, and the future. At the end of our meal, we made our way out to the parking lot. Then, without notice, she stepped right up to me and gave me a hug. I was stunned and thought to myself, who was this young woman that could show such concern for me? As she walked toward her car, I just looked at her. She had to be 7 years younger than me, at least a short, petite woman that always seemed to have a smile on her face. I really wanted to learn more of her story. We would have to do this again soon. Olivia had certainly changed my mood. As I drove to my apartment, I was smiling and singing along with the radio some country song that I had heard a number of times before. When I walked into my living room, I saw the letter I had started. My smile went away, but my mood was definitely better than when I had started the letter. Having a young woman care enough to try to cheer me up definitely helped me to have a new perspective on life. I sat down and picked up the paper and thought about my ex-wife. Our relationship wasn't perfect, no one's is. Just ask any couple that has been married for any length of time. There are things that your mate does that, if you focused on them, would drive you crazy. You learn to ignore those things, or at least learn to live with them. That made me think about the dinner with Olivia. I compared Olivia to Maya. There was something different. Then it dawned on me knew what was different. It was the clink, clink, clink of Maya's fork touching her plate. My ex had a habit of tapping her fork on the plate 3 times before taking a bite. I had asked her about it one time. She didn't even consciously know she was doing it. When she took a minute to think about it, she came up with a reason why she did it. To ensure all the food is securely on my fork, so I don't spill it on my blouse. I guess that's a good reason, and I learned to live with it. I even learned to ignore it. One thing I do know, I'll not miss eating with her. I put pen to paper and started writing again. When we were first married, I found it cute the way she always touched her fork 3 times to her plate before she eats each bite of food. I have to admit, though, it did really annoy me towards the end. Hearing that clink, clink, clink all throughout our meals, even when out for dinner. There it was, clink, clink, clink. That next week at work, Olivia let me know that she enjoyed the time we had spent together. Being polite, I said, so did I. We will have to do that again. When? She asked. That surprised me a bit. How about Friday, if you don't already have a date, that is? Nope, I'm free for you, she said, smiling. There it was again, that flirting. Or was it just an innocent comment? That night, when I walked into the door of my apartment, I was whistling a tune. I saw the letter on the coffee table and thought to myself, not tonight. I don't even want to think of my ex. Friday came, and we again found ourselves out enjoying a meal together. I was nervous. It was a Friday night, and I was eating a meal that we had actually planned with a beautiful woman. I guess it was a date. It had been so long for me that I didn't know what to expect or what was expected. I did know that this woman in front of me was pleasant to be around and also pleasant to look at. Also, I knew she was interested in learning more about me. We finished our meal and then just drove around. I know I was nervous, and maybe she was too, but when there was silence in the car, neither one of us felt the need to fill it with useless prattle. I appreciated that she was comfortable just sitting in the car together as I drove. At the end of the night, I brought her to her condo. We talked for a little while, then she went inside. As I walked into my apartment and saw the letter still sitting on my coffee table, I just grinned to myself. A week went by, and on Saturday afternoon, Chloe called me again. Dad, did you send back your RSVP to Mom? No, honey. I told you I threw the invitation in the trash where it belonged. Dad, will you go for me? Why do you want me to go so badly, Chloe? Do you think I want to see that a holy smirking at me as he marries your mom? Dad, I know you two don't get along and I get it. But if you don't go, it will just reinforce in his mind that he has won. Honey, I don't know. I don't think your mother really wants me there anyway. I think he probably put her up to sending the invitation. Dad, please think about it. I will, honey, but don't get your hopes up. We finished our phone call, and I was a little depressed. Why couldn't Chloe understand how I felt? I needed to put a smile on my face, so I decided to call Olivia. Hey, Olivia, how are you? I was just thinking about you, wondering if you had plans today. Well, that makes me feel good that you're thinking about me. I don't have anything planned. Do you have something in mind? I want to do a road trip. Are you up for it? Where to? She asked. Let's just hop in my car and see where it takes us. Okay, I'm all yours. As soon as I said it, I hoped she didn't take that too seriously. I didn't want to scare her by making her think I was moving too fast. We ended up driving through the countryside, looking at the wonderful world around us. We traveled some high mountain roads where the views were breathtaking. We stopped at a scenic overlook and walked up to get the best view. The wind was a little chilly, so I put my arm around her to share my warmth. She looked up at me, and I looked down into her eyes and kissed her. It wasn't a long, passionate kiss, rather one that said, I like you. It was the first time we kissed. I had been hesitant to do anything. I didn't want to scare this lovely woman away, and also, it had been almost 3 decades since I had kissed anyone other than my ex. She smiled and hugged me back. That was a good sign. We walked arm in arm. Over the last few weeks, we had talked about our past relationships. She had married in her early 20s to a drunk that had become abusive. Luckily, she said, I saw early on that he wouldn't give up drinking, so I made a conscious decision not to have any children with him. I didn't want to bring them up with an abusive drunk as a father. We discussed my divorce again. She couldn't believe that after all those years together, my ex decided that I wasn't good or rich enough. We walked along, and then I talked about my daughter. When I mentioned that she was 24, she said, oh, she's 10 years younger than I am. Olivia is 34. I thought to myself, what the hell am I doing? I'm 50 years old. Why would she want to hang out with an old guy like me? She looked at me and gave me a look that could kill. Then she said, David, if you can't tell that I like you and that your age means nothing to me, then maybe I don't know you at all. Maybe you should find someone that's old enough, she said, using air quotes, so that I won't be wasting either of our time. I looked at her. She had moved a bit away from me. I blew it, I said to myself as I sat down on a rock bench nearby. Why am I so stupid? I have a good thing going with someone that makes me happy, and I have to go and say something to screw it up. I looked over at her. She was turned away, but I could tell she was crying. I got up and approached her. I hesitantly placed my hands on her shoulders and pressed my body gently to her back. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. I guess I just can't believe a gorgeous woman would want to spend time with me. I'm not movie star handsome, far from it. I'm barely average. She turned her head slightly, and I could see the tears still streaming down her face. Olivia, I know it is early in our relationship, but I'm developing strong feelings for you. I guess I was just trying to guard against getting my heart broken again. She turned around and looked at me. You don't think I'm scared? My ex-husband was an abusive drunk. He wasn't like that before I married him, at least. I didn't see it then. I was in a relationship with a guy that wouldn't commit. I think you are different, and I thought we were creating something special. I am not into one-night stands. Having a relationship with someone that I like and care for is what I've been searching for. I thought I found that guy, but if our age difference is all you can think about, then maybe we shouldn't even be friends. I looked at her. The little makeup she wore was smudged, but she was the most beautiful woman in the world to me. I grabbed her gently, pulling her to my chest. Then, after a light hug, I pulled away a little bit. That is when I kissed her again, only this time passionately with all of me. She soon reciprocated, and we stood there making out with the sun shining down upon us. We must have been there quite a while because when we finally stopped kissing, I noticed that some storm clouds were rolling in. I looked at Olivia and said, "Those clouds look kind of ominous. We better head back. In fact, we'd better skip the scenic route back and hit the highway." She looked at me and said, "Can I interest you in a home-cooked, authentic Mexican dinner when we get back?" "That sounds great, but only if you let me help." "Well, I have never had a man in my kitchen before, but if you're willing, I'm willing to take the chance." I was glad and a bit surprised that neither of her two past relationships helped her in the kitchen. Was that a cultural thing? I wondered. On the trip back, I noticed something else about Olivia that was different from Maya. It was something good, and it made me smile. I would have to put this in my letter to Alex. Dinner was great, and although I think she felt a little awkward with me helping out, we were soon prepping like a well-oiled machine. To say the food tasted great would be an understatement. Authentic was definitely better than the supposed authentic food you buy in the grocery store or even the restaurants. She told me that the recipes and prep had been handed down from grandmother to granddaughter for generations. That amazed me. I couldn't think of anything that my ancestors had passed down except my genes, of course. We ended the night on the couch with more kissing and hugging. It felt so good to have a woman's body so close to mine. We didn't take it any further, though. I think we were both still gun-shy, and I know I didn't want to rush things. I wanted to grow our relationship. That night, when I got home, I went right to the letter. When I had started the letter, I wasn't sure if I would send it. I just needed to get things off my chest. Now, I still wasn't sure, but I was leaning towards sending it. The letter was therapeutic, and I was able to get rid of some anger. So I kept it on the coffee table to write my thoughts down when I found I had something I wanted to say. Tonight, I had something to say. Thinking back to when we were first married, young and in love, we had just started our life together as well as our new careers. As such, money was a little tight, so our honeymoon was not to exotic locations but was a drive to the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. We took turns driving the 8 hours. When you're newly married, you don't let little things bother you. It was, however, the first time I noticed that Maya doesn't like using cruise control. That wouldn't be a big problem, except that she fluctuates 2 to 3 mph every 20 to 30 seconds. I actually got a bit queasy. After we stopped for lunch, I told Maya I would drive the rest of the trip. So from then on long trips, I would drive. I set the letter down. Riding today with Olivia showed me that long drives were not going to be a problem for me in the future. I needed to write something else down to get it off my chest. When Maya and I had gotten married, it had started out awesome. I needed to express this to Alex. Our honeymoon was awesome, literally no holds barred. Early in our marriage, there was nothing that we didn't try together. Every position imaginable, even wheelbarrow. For the last 10 years, it has been strictly missionary, nothing else. The sex life was so bad that I haven't had one of those happy endings in years. Maybe she is more adventurous with you. For your sake, I hope you get it more frequently than I did these last few years. Initially, I thought that maybe menopause was rearing its ugly head. Maybe, however, she was bored with me, and that is why she started up with you. Obviously, we are all getting older and fighting that middle-aged spread. Also, gravity has taken its toll. Her breasts were hit the hardest. They now look like bananas. There were times I could not differentiate between her belly and her breasts because they were so close together. As they say, she became very down to earth. Despite all of that, I hoped I would be with her for the long haul. You, however, probably have every day of those 30-plus years to grow old with each other. Yes, the best man has won. Enjoy your prize. Sincerely, your nemesis, David Evans. I had finished the letter. I could write pages of the little things that got on my nerves, things that I had learned to live with. However, I was done looking back. ready to look toward my future with Olivia. Early the next morning, I called Olivia. She answered, "Well, hello? Do you miss me already?" Yes, I do," I said with a smile on my face. "I was wondering if you had plans on the long Independence Day weekend? It was 2 weeks away, but I wanted to do something special." "No, what do you have in mind?" "Well, I don't want to sound like I'm rushing our relationship, but would you like to go away for a few days? I thought we could go down to Nantucket Island." Then, not wanting to put pressure on her, I quickly said, "We can get 2 hotel rooms. I don't want to make you uncomfortable." She responded in a way that surprised me and showed me that she cared. "I won't feel uncomfortable, but I am concerned that you may not be ready. Your divorce still seems to be a little raw for you." "Oh, I'm ready," I said, and then, not wanting to sound like a lecturer, I said, "I know I was depressed for a while there. As you know, I had just gotten the invitation to my ex's wedding ceremony. It brought up a lot of resentment that I was still harboring. You, thankfully, have turned that around. I thought after yesterday you may be ready to move forward," she suggested. "Yesterday was great. These past weeks, I was afraid that I might be moving too fast. It's been years, and I don't enter relationships lightly. Nor do I, David. You, however, are a person that I feel very comfortable with, and I know you are a good person." Then, feeling courageous, I said, "Well, I am good even when I'm bad." I said it in a semi-joking, lecherous tone. She laughed. "I'll have to keep my eye on you then." I really enjoyed the banter. It showed me that we had moved past the on my best behavior stage of our relationship. We made plans to meet for lunch, and I hung up the phone with a huge smile on my face. I immediately went online and booked one room with 2 queen beds, one to play on and one to sleep on. I guess I am a lecher. That next week, Chloe called again. "Dad, Mom says you're not coming to her wedding. She said she hasn't gotten your RSVP yet. Dad, I really wish you would go for me." "Chloe, honey, what would I need to be there for? It isn't your wedding. I want to dance with my father." How could I get out of this without disappointing my daughter?" "Honey, they'll be able to dance with you next year when you get married. What's it going to hurt for you to come for a few hours?" She whined. I would feel like everyone would be looking at me with pity. There's the ex-husband she dropped to marry this guy. I can't believe he's here. "Oh, Dad, they would not." "I think they would, dear. So bring a date then. Show them you've moved on." "We'll see," I replied. "Dad, the wedding is about a month away. Please," she pleaded. "We'll see. That's the best that I can do right now." I changed the subject, and we talked about other things in her life. She sure was a busy girl, burning the candle at 5 ends. Later in the week, Olivia stopped by my apartment with Chinese food. She said, "Surprise. I thought I would spend the evening with my favorite guy." Of course, I invited her in. She set the food on the table and asked, "Do you want to eat it out of the containers, or should we use plates?" I liked Theta Girl that was down to earth, willing to eat out of Togo containers. Not wanting to sound uncivilized, though, I said, "I'm sure I've got at least 2 clean plates around here somewhere. Let's sit at the table to eat." "I'm okay either way," she said. I grabbed the plates and silverware, and we sat down to eat and talk. While we were eating, she slipped her shoes off and started rubbing her foot up and down my leg. I looked at her and said, "It appears the Kung Pao chicken isn't the only thing that is hot tonight." She just looked at me with a fake, innocent look and said, "I don't know what you're talking about." I just smiled as she kept on rubbing my leg with her foot. After dinner, we went into the living room and sat on the couch. We focused on each other as we started making out. She pulled away and said, "I have to visit the bathroom, but don't you forget where we left off." Wow, what a woman. She wasn't gone for long, but while she was gone, I went into the kitchen. I was just about to pour us a couple of glasses of wine when I asked her, "White or red?" "I would rather have a bottle of beer," was her reply. Wow, what a woman. I grabbed a couple of beers and headed back into the living room. As I rounded the corner, I stopped. She was intently reading my letter to Alex. She looked up at me with a guilty look on her face, saying, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have just started reading your stuff. I'm sorry. I feel terrible." How could I be mad at that gorgeous face when it was obvious she was truly sorry? Also, she felt comfortable enough around me to pick it up in the first place. It had been sitting there on the table where I left it. Let me explain." "You don't have to," she said. "I shouldn't have been so nosy. Olivia, it's okay that you've read it. I wrote it to help get it off my chest. It is written to the Aholi that is marrying my ex-wife. I started writing it when I got the invitation. This is cheaper than therapy. I just think of things from time to time and add to the letter. I probably won't send it, but it helps me to think that I'm writing it to him. I can see that, she said. It looks like you're working your way through the pain. What you wrote was interesting, though. I blushed, remembering that my entry included descriptions of our sex life. Yeah, I was just remembering life with my ex. I was probably a little cruel there at the end of it. David, it's how you feel, and if it helps you get past it, then what's the harm? Wow, what a woman. Olivia, you are just what the doctor ordered. I sat back down next to her, took the letter from her hand, laid it back on the coffee table, and kissed her passionately. I pulled my face away from her lips and looked at her. What, are you upset that I removed your impediment? I smiled and said, now, where were we? We spent the rest of the evening on the couch making love. Leading up to our long weekend, we got together most nights or talked on the phone. We were learning so much about one another. On the Thursday before the holiday weekend, I got a call from Chloe. Dad, I'm calling to make another plea. Will you go to the wedding? I was getting a little perturbed even though she was my daughter. Chloe, is your mother putting you up to this? No, Dad. To be honest, I think she would rather you didn't come. She doesn't want a scene, but Alex keeps pushing. Why would she think I would make a scene? I retorted. Because he has been your rival since you were in school, she explained. So then why do you want me to go so bad? Do you want me to make a scene? I accused. No, Dad. I want you to show Mom and Alex that you were the bigger man. I think it would be good for you. Maybe force you to deal with it and move on. My daughter wanted me to move on. I had already moved on. My relationship with Olivia was already to the point that we were exclusive, and we committed to each other. Honey, I'm fine. I've already moved on. Let the Aholy have her and put up with her. Yeah, that sounds like you've moved on all right, she said sarcastically. Believe me, honey, I have. Sure, there is still resentment, and I wouldn't shed a tear if he died tomorrow, but I have moved on. Sorry, Dad. I didn't mean to get you upset. I think, though, that I would better let you go before I say something that hurts your feelings. Sorry, Dad. They'll talk to you next week. When Olivia called later that night, she could tell that something wasn't right. It's nothing. My daughter called and is bugging me to go to my ex's wedding. I don't know why she is pushing so hard for this, I said heatedly. Can we discuss this over the weekend when you've calmed down? She asked. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to take it out on you. It's okay, David. We'll work through this together. We talked for a while longer and made plans for me to pick her up in the morning. That next morning, when she came out of her condo, I was gobsmacked. Olivia was dressed in a yellow floral print spaghetti strap sundress that really complemented her petite frame and olive complexion. I got hard just looking at her. She was carrying an overnight bag that couldn't have carried more than a couple of small outfits. I guess she didn't feel she needed too many clothes for the 3 days. She opened the door to my car, put her bag in the back, and sat down in the front seat. I apologized. I said I would have gotten out and opened your door for you, but I don't think I could stand up without embarrassing myself. She grinned and said, You say the sweetest things. Wow, what a woman. I drove to the hotel on the beach and talked casually all the way. Looking at her sitting there, I don't think I ever lost my arousal. We got an early check-in at the hotel and went up to our room. It had an awesome view. As we stood there, she turned to me and said, David, we have a problem. I looked at her questioningly. She had a smile on her face, mixed signals, to say the least. Then she said, I can't take you out in public with that prominent bulge in your pants. Let me take care of that. Well, to say that she took care of the matter would be an understatement. We made love, and she was awesome. Wow, what a woman. Once we were done, she said, problem solved. Now get up and get going. We got ready, and I was speechless as I followed her out the door, onto the elevator, and out to my car, grinning all the way. Before I started up the car, I looked over at her, leaned in, and kissed her passionately. This wonderful woman treated me like a king, and I would treat her as my queen. I was all in. I couldn't tell you what we ate. My eyes and mind were all on her. David, she said, interrupting my thoughts. I looked into her eyes. Yes? Can I make a suggestion without upsetting you? I thought a second and said, I can't promise not to get upset, but I'll try. Thank you, David. You know I care about you a lot. Ooh-ho, I thought to myself, what's next? David, I would like to go with you to your ex-wife's wedding. I want to meet your daughter, show off my man to all of the other guests, and finally, I would like to thank Maya for making you available for me, she said with a smirk on her face. To say I was stunned is an understatement. I looked at her, and a huge smile filled my face. Oh my God, I thought. This would be perfect. I can definitely hold my head high with this woman on my arm. By the smile on your face, I take that as a yes? She questioned. You will make me the proudest man at the wedding, I said. We might have to leave the reception early to put the spotlight back onto the bride and groom. That night was awesome. We consummated our relationship. It was loving and raw at the same time. It had been a while for both of us, so we were a bit eager. I think I did well for a man of my age with only limited experience with different women. When you're with someone as long as I had been, you get into a routine that works for both of you. When you start with another woman, it is a little awkward. They don't react or expect things the way your ex did. I'm sure she felt the same way about what I was doing or how I was reacting. In my opinion, though, we did well. We soon were able to read each other and found our groove. In the morning, I woke up next to this wonderful woman, and she was a vision. Of course, she had bedhead. We had gotten wild last night, after all, but she still looked tremendous. I was expecting her to head straight to the bathroom to start the morning ritual, but she didn't. She turned to me, ran her fingers through her hair, and then laid her head on my chest, giving me a hug in the process. It felt so good and so natural. I just laid there and enjoyed it. Then I kissed the top of her head, and she snuggled in even more. I finally got up and brushed my teeth and relieved my bladder. As I walked out of the bathroom, I looked at her still lying on the bed. I wish I could have taken a picture, but am sure that I needed to remember that vision. I will remember it for the rest of my life. She noticed me standing there looking at her, and she pulled a pillow over her face. That's when I said something that I don't believe I ever said to my ex. Why would you hide such a stunning beauty behind a pillow? She rolled over and buried her face into the pile of pillows. Her naked backside was fully in view. Then I said, there is a stunning beauty behind. She wiggled her hips, and then I heard a muffled laugh from under the pillows. I quickly got back on the bed and laid beside her, caressing her back and butt. She pulled her head up and gave me a deep kiss. I had brushed my teeth, but she hadn't yet. There was no horrible morning breath. We lay there for a little while, caressing each other. Nothing sexual, just sensual. When we finally got out of bed, it was after 10. She went into the bathroom and closed the door. I called out to her, do you want me to make a reservation for lunch? Lunch? She called back. I'm hungry for breakfast. Give me a few, and it'll be ready. I was shocked, to say the least. Maya would take an hour. 5 minutes later, she came out of the bathroom with her hair combed and just a touch of makeup on. She truly was a stunning beauty. She went to her clothes and picked out a few things, placing them on the bed. She bent down and put on her panties. There was that other stunning beauty again. So I said, that is a wonderful view. She turned to me and said, I'm glad you like it. It's been with me all my life. I laughed. She is so quick with just the right quip. We spent the day walking the beach, visiting shops, enjoying local restaurants, and each other. At dinner, we were sitting in a romantic Italian restaurant, enjoying the meal and our conversation. She got quiet, which caught my attention. She whispered, when we get back to the hotel, I want to try that wheelbarrow position you wrote about. My eyes got wide, and a huge smile came to my face. We can try anything you want, I replied. She just looked at me with those beautiful brown eyes, and I knew I was probably in over my head. Well, that night we did try the wheelbarrow and many others. It was our night to experiment. She took me a little out of my comfort zone. We did so many things with her telling me what she liked and what she wanted. I was eager to please her, though. By the end of the weekend, we were so comfortable with each other, both emotionally as well as physically, that we didn't even bother watching the fireworks. We made our own. Our relationship had hit a milestone. We were a couple. We both knew that this was for real, and we're both looking forward to experiencing life together. That week, my daughter called me again. Dad, the wedding is in 15 days. I am asking, no begging you, to be the better man and say yes to going. I hemmed and hawed a little, making my daughter squirm a little on the other end of the line. Then I said, okay, but under one condition. Great. What is it? I will have a +1 that you are going to have to meet and accept because she will probably be your stepmom. What? Yep, I believe I'm in love. How long have you been dating? Only a little while, but we both care deeply for each other, I declared. I can't wait to meet her, she said. I knew you would find someone. The day of the wedding came. I picked Olivia up from her condo. She looked remarkable. She was dressed in a conservative yet somehow sexy dress that accentuated her every curve and enhanced her natural beauty. Again, just a little makeup on her eyes that made her deep brown eyes stand out. It was hard not to look at them. I drove to the church, and we decided to sit toward the back. After all, I didn't want to upstage the bride on her special day. 3 days before, I had mailed out the letter to Alex. Yeah, it had been therapeutic for me to write it down, and I probably shouldn't have mailed it, but he was my nemesis, after all. We were sitting in the pew, and he must have heard I was there. I saw him looking around for me. We caught eyes, and he headed toward me. I'm sure so he could gloat. As he walked up, he saw my date and nearly stumbled. Olivia was so extraordinary that he knew the best man had won. Later, as he stood up front, ready to take the plunge, he had a look on his face that said, "Am I making a mistake?" Well, that feeling of his did not take long to materialize. Initially, I heard bits and pieces about their relationship through mutual acquaintances. Part of me wondered if Maya would be different with Alex, but another part knew that her behavior wouldn't change so easily. A few months into their marriage, I started hearing rumors about their constant fighting. It seemed that the same patterns that had plagued our relationship were now present in theirs, only worse. Maya was actually beating him up, both verbally and physically. Alex, who had once seemed so confident and composed, began to look worn down and defeated. Then one day, I got a call from my daughter. "Did you hear about Mom and Alex?" I sighed, expecting more news about their marital adventures. "What now?" "I had to get Mom bailed out yesterday. She put Alex in the hospital. They were having one of their daily arguments. A neighbor had called the cops, and once they arrived, they found Alex on the floor and Mom was sitting on his chest, raining down punches. Alex had to get several stitches to close the wound on his head. As for the cops, Mom hit him on the head with a wine bottle and then mounted him to beat him further. Alex has not pressed charges, but he has a restraining order against her." I was taken aback, a mix of shock and an unsettling sense of déjà vu washing over me. I couldn't hold back and actually burst out laughing. At least I didn't get beat up. "So is he still going to enjoy his victory over me? Or is he going to divorce your mother?" "Yeah, he already filed for divorce. I guess the day-to-day grind had hit and the bloom was off the rose. He must have looked and saw 30 or more years of living with this woman and decided that it wasn't what he thought it would be. He didn't even make a year with her. The excitement is in the competition. Once you have the trophy, it just sits there and collects dust." That next year, Chloe got married, and I walked her down the aisle, a proud father. Maya was there also, of course, but not Alex. They were still in the process of divorce. Maya spent a few days in jail, but Alex was kind enough not to file charges against her if she agreed to the divorce terms. Maya didn't get any money from this marriage either. I met Maya at lunch at my daughter's place. Olivia was running late and had not arrived yet. Meanwhile, Maya walked up to me. She looked like hell. "Hey, David, can I talk to you for a second?" She started. Before I could say no, she continued. "I made a mistake giving up a quarter-century of love and caring for a pipe dream. Alex just kept finding fault with everything I did. Nothing was right or good enough. He even made me get surgery to try to firm up my breasts and take that mole off. It just seemed like he was never happy. David, I'm sorry. Is there any way I could make it up to you, and we could start over?" I guess my letter did have an impact on Alex. I looked at Maya and said, "So finally, someone found faults in the holier Thanthu. That is called karma. As for getting back with you, ever since you left me, I have had a wonderful Lafino nagging. No finding faults in me, no bickering, no constant yapping, and no yelling at me. Do you really think that I would give up my peace of mind and get back with you? Hell no." I started walking away, and then Olivia came and joined me. I held her hand. "This is Olivia, my fiancée. We are getting married next month." Then we all had our lunch, and Maya never spoke a word. A month later, I got married. No, I did not send Maya any invitation. I no longer had the need to be vindictive. Did I feel sorry for her? No. She made her bed, she had to lie in it. Just because I shoveled a little into that bed doesn't mean she didn't deserve it. Thanks for watching. What would you have done in David's situation? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories. See you in the next video. Some guys are clueless. I was one of them. Clueless men ought to have meetings somewhere. A place where we can get together, have a beer or 6, and feel stupid together. Trouble is, we wouldn't know the meeting was for us. Lisa and I married in our early 20s. We got together often enough to make 3 kids and have occasional fun between the pregnancies too. I read the books that told me I was supposed to be the good husband and stay faithful. I followed the advice when Megan left home to go to college. I wondered what Lisa would do with no more kids at home. What she did was start volunteering at the hospital 3 days a week. She was there. She worked in the gift shop some days, in the pediatric playroom some days, and probably other places as well. We had a nice circle of friends that we gathered while we were all raising our kids, and we still got together about once a month for barbecues or parties in our various homes. I was close to 3 other guys in the circle, basically because we were the ones who loved fishing. 4 or 5 times a year, we would take off for a weekend fishing trip together. I thought our marriage was pretty much like the ones around me. Kids gone, wives doing stuff, some working and some not, husbands settled in our careers and biding our time until retirement. When we went fishing, we talked about all that. We sometimes even talked about our relationships and sex. In April, the 4 of us went fishing. Sitting in the boat quietly, watching the spot where my line entered the water, we talked softly. It started with Paul talking about going to Riverwood to visit his son. His wife found an empty condom wrapper in his room and was really upset. Then Tim mentioned that on the way home from visiting their daughter at school, his wife had mentioned that she told her mom she was having sex with the guy she was dating. We all laughed when he described the guy. He was always wearing torn, worn-out clothes, needed a shave, and slouched. Stephen didn't say anything for quite a while. I noticed and asked, "Stephen, what's going on in there? You seem deep in thought." "I'm not sure I want to say anything. If I'm wrong, I would be starting something that might hurt someone. And if I'm right, it will certainly hurt all of us," he said. "Is it something that you saw or did?" I asked. He hesitated. "No fish," he interrupted. So he said, "I saw your wife parking her car behind the Golden View Hotel." "Whose wife?" Tim asked. "Lisa's wife, 3 weeks ago and the day before yesterday," Stephen said. "Are you implying that Ryan's wife is screwing around?" Paul asked. "I don't know what she's doing. I know I've seen her twice at the Golden View in a month." "What were you doing at the Golden View?" Tim asked. "I deliver supplies to the Golden View 3 times a week. The Golden View and every other hotel in the area." "Right, I forgot," I said. My head was spinning. Why would Lisa be at the Golden View twice in a month? Could she be cheating on me? I needed to get home and check this out. I didn't go home. I stayed fishing with the guys. If I took off, it would say that I believed Lisa was cheating on me. When we got back into the city, I picked my car up at Paul's house and headed home. When I got home, Lisa wasn't there. I sat at the computer thinking about how I could find out what Lisa was doing over the 2 hours before she came home. I found some things on the internet that would help me find out. I ordered them and had them shipped to my office. When Lisa did come home, I put the move on her, and she let me kiss her but didn't want to have sex. She blamed hot flashes and menopause. No surprise there. Life over the next week was normal for Lisa and me, with an undercurrent of wondering and suspicion. I looked for and listened for any hint about what she might be doing. I called her at random times, and everything seemed fine. The night after the first package arrived, I worked in the garage and mounted a GPS transmitter on her car. From my laptop, I could locate and track her without her knowing. The next day, another package arrived, and I installed it in her car as well. Now, I could listen in on everything said in her car. The next morning, Lisa wasn't scheduled to be at the hospital, and at breakfast, she said she might do some shopping. From my office, I tracked her to the mall and then to the market. She was home with whatever she bought by 1 in the afternoon. At 1:40, she left home, drove south for 10 minutes, east for 10 minutes, and then wound around until she was at the Golden View. I left the office and drove to the Golden View. In 5 minutes, I found her car and parked where I was well hidden but could see her car easily. At 4:01, she walked out of the hotel and straight to her car. As she pulled out and headed for the exit, Jason White walked out of the same exit and nodded at her as she drove past him. I was shocked. Jason had one of the nicest, best-looking wives in our circle of friends. He got in his car and drove away. I sat in the parking lot until my cell rang. "Ryan, you were so short on the phone. Couldn't you say hello?" "Hello, what do you want for dinner?" "How about you naked on the table with a little ranch dressing?" "Darn, we're out of ranch dressing. Anything else? Something light and healthy, a salad or salmon?" My thoughts weren't on dinner. They were on being normal so she wouldn't suspect that I knew anything. Okay, what time will you be home? Just after 5. Okay, see you then, she hung up. Having a thought, I got out of my car and went into the Golden View. As I approached the desk, I saw the daughter of one of my clients behind the desk. I chatted with her for a couple of minutes, and then I asked, "One of my friends is staying here. Can you check for me?" "Sure. What's his name?" "Jason White." Her fingers danced on the keyboard, and seconds later, she said, "He is in room 188, just like always. Every Thursday morning, he checks in and is gone the next morning. He always has room 188. Sometimes he is here on other days too, but always on Thursdays." "Can the computer tell how long this has been going on?" Her fingers danced again, and she said, "First time was in February. Would you get in trouble if you gave me a printout of his record?" "No one would know I did it. Is something going on?" "Let's just say he's been coming into town more often than his friends knew about. Do you want the printout?" "Yes, please." She gave it to me in a folder. I wasn't sure what I would do with it, but I knew it would be useful. I tucked it in my briefcase and drove home. Lisa had a salmon salad ready when I got home. We ate, and she told me about her day shopping. By her telling the story, she was in the mall until 3 and then stopped at the market on the way home. She sat right there and lied to my face. I wondered if she had showered when she got home to get the hotel, and sex smells off her. Asking to be excused, I went to the bathroom and peed. I also checked, and the shower was wet, and there were clothes in the hamper. The panties smelled like sex. Damn, I was really getting pissed. Why in hell would Lisa be doing Jason every week for months? She sure as hell wasn't cheating on me. We cleaned up after dinner, and she perched on the couch with a book. My retreat was to the computer. I looked up the list of people in our circle and found the email address for Jason's wife. She had two, one at home and one at her office. I used my other email address and sent her an email to her office address. The return address she would see would be one she wouldn't recognize. My note to her said, "If you would like to know who, when, and where Jason is cheating on you, respond to this email. I have evidence that will be of interest to you. I don't want money." I sent it at 8:10, and at 9, I looked, and her response was there. "I can meet tomorrow at almost any time. I am showing a new home at 1212 Maple Street in Bayville almost all day. You could drop around one, and I can take lunch then. You could drop in any time the house is open, and if no one else is there, we can talk." I erased the emails, hers and mine, and went to bed. I was asleep when Lisa came to bed. In the morning, Lisa was cheerful and getting ready for a day at the hospital. I got dressed and went to work, just like always. At 12, I called Lisa and asked, "Can I take care of dinner tonight? Are you going to cook? Is there something you'd like me to cook?" "Jambalaya then. That's what you'll get." I checked the GPS and she was at the hospital. I drove from my office past Jason's office just in time to see Jason and two other men walk into a deli. I parked at the curb and quickly installed another GPS tracker on his car. Then I drove to a sandwich place and got a sandwich for me and a salad for Jason's wife. When I parked 2 doors down from the open house sign and walked to the open house, when Rachel saw me, her face paled and she got up off the couch and went to the front door. She put a sign out that said, "At lunch till 2, then came back inside." We sat on the couch. Her eyes were full of tears, and she looked like if she spoke, she would break down. I suddenly was afraid of the same thing. From my briefcase, I pulled the Golden View papers and handed them to her. She looked them over, and the tears did fall. In a whisper, I said, "I'm so sorry." She looked up at my face and said, "The man has been cheating on me for months. He's been cheating for at least part of that time with my wife, Lisa. I'm so sorry." She paused, blew her nose, and then said, "He is so screwed. That piece of paper does not prove anything. We need actual proof. We also need to be fully prepared for what we are going to do when we have proof. Right? Sometimes I'm impulsive and fly off the handle. We need a plan." An hour later, Rachel took down the lunch sign and we continued to talk until almost 4. No one came to the open house. We had a plan. When I left that night, I looked on the internet and found a conference in Las Vegas for people in my field and another conference in Las Vegas for realtors. I sent Rachel the info, and she replied that we should go. I made my reservation and told Lisa. I told her about the conference and how I thought I could make some good connections there. I asked her if she wanted to go. She said she wanted to think about it and would give me an answer in the morning. Rachel waited until Jason came home to tell him about the conference she wanted to attend. She also invited him to go, but he couldn't, too much work. Lisa called me at work and told me she just didn't feel up to 3 days and nights in Vegas and the long drive. Instead, she was thinking about visiting her sister. I acted disappointed. No more was said about the trip. In my office the next day, I called Henry Hawkins, my lawyer. Actually, he's the lawyer for my business. I asked for and got his assurance that he had no professional or personal relationship with Lisa. Then we talked about the possible implications of a divorce. I made notes into a computer file. I spoke to him about the family assets and how they would be divided. I asked how I could protect myself so I didn't get screwed in the process. He said he'd come up with a plan to protect me and my assets. He also hired someone to get proof that they were having an affair. At 4, my phone rang. It was Rachel calling from a payphone. She had reservations at the Mirage. I was at Treasure Island. She talked about what she needed to bring. I told her to bring her laptop, her personal phone book, and a cell phone that she could use from Vegas without it costing a fortune. That night, I packed. Lisa came in as I was finishing up and looked over my suitcase. "You forgot a bathing suit," she said. "I'm not going on vacation," I replied. "A swim with contacts might help," she said. I packed a swimsuit. She didn't say anything else. When I was packed, I put the suitcase in the trunk of my car, and after my nightly ritual, went to bed. I invited Lisa to join me in bed for a pre-trip frolic, but she was a little tired. "Maybe when you get back," she said, smiling. Before dawn, I was up and on the road. My cell phone rang at 7:30, and I answered. "Where are you?" Rachel asked. "Almost to Pomona. There's a Denny's there where we're off to go to the fair, remember?" "Yes, it's about 2 miles ahead. Get off and I'll meet you there." "Okay, sure. I'm hungry. Want me to order for you?" "No, I'll wait. Get started yourself, though." I pulled off the freeway and parked at Denny's. A few minutes later, Rachel walked in. She was wearing jeans and a loose Western shirt with boots. Not at all what I expected. She smiled and sat down with me. The waitress was right there and left her with a menu and coffee. She came back and we both ordered. I kept looking at Rachel like she wasn't the professional woman I had almost always seen her as. Even at parties, she usually dressed like she was going to or just came from an open house. After we ate, Rachel said how much she hated the thought of driving all the way to Las Vegas alone. I said for her to follow me. I had an idea. She agreed and followed me to a nearby parking structure. At the entrance, I asked how much it would cost to park a car there for 3 days. It wasn't much, so I drove in, and so did Rachel. I parked, and she parked next to me. I loaded her stuff into my car, and we left her car right there. Neither of us needed to drive alone. We talked strategies for 3.5 hours. I drove, and she took notes. In Baker, we gassed the car and took a short break. We had come together because our spouses were cheating on us. Now we were becoming friends. I liked her. I had liked her for years without ever really getting to know her. We laughed sometimes, we were sad sometimes, and we got along on the trip. In Las Vegas, I dropped her at her hotel and went to mine. We agreed when and where to meet for supper at my room. I called my lawyer, and he laughed. "You can come back now. Your wife went to his house, and they went skinny dipping in his backyard. We have video of them having 3 kinds of sex in the backyard. You are free." There is even a copy of Time magazine from today on the table next to them as they were doing it. "Shall I have his wife call you?" Funny thing is, she already has. Between you and her both hiring me, I'll save both of you lots of money. Thanks. Can I ask you a hypothetical question? Sure. What will happen to this case if Rachel and I get together while we are here in Vegas? Unless your wife is having you followed or Jason is having you followed, nothing should mess up. Both rooms. Do you want to have her served or him served before you get back? No, I want to be there changing the locks before she is served. Get a restraining order keeping her away from my business and the house, if that can be done. When do you want all this ready? I'll talk it over with Rachel and we'll get back to you. An hour later, I walked into Caesar's and found the restaurant Rachel had picked. I sat with her and we talked and ate. I used my cell and called our lawyer. Wait to do anything until we get back. Have your guy get more proof while we're gone. Better to have a ton when a pound would do. When I hung up, we paid the bill and walked through the shopping area together. We didn't touch. Once again, my thoughts were on Lisa and Jason. The image of Lisa skinny dipping and screwing in Jason's backyard kept popping into my head. Lisa hadn't skinny dipped with me since our son Daniel was old enough to walk. Now he's married. Rachel said she was getting tired, so we walked to the taxi area, and she went back to her hotel. Just before she got in the cab, I saw and felt her wanting to kiss me. I wanted it too, but we didn't. Half an hour later, I walked into my room, and the phone was ringing. It was Lisa. It's late. Where have you been? I went over to Caesar's for dinner and walked around afterwards. I saw some sexy clothes. I think you would look good in them. Should I get them for you? Sexy clothes? You know, I almost never dress sexy. I'm almost 50 for heaven's sake. So that's a no? That's a no. Now, if you find a nice necklace or jewelry, that would be nice. Okay, I'll look tomorrow. Right now, I'm shutting off the cell phone and going to sleep. Good night, Lisa. I love you. She didn't say she loved me. I showered and shaved, getting ready for bed. I sat down on the bed to shut off my cell for the night when it rang. Hello? Open the door. I opened the door, and Rachel came in and closed it behind her. I was standing there in a towel, and she was still in jeans and a western shirt. Jason's at home, not missing me at all. He's screwing your wife in my bed, she said. I thought about that on the taxi ride to my hotel. I got all the way to my room, called the desk, asking that I not be disturbed for the night, messed up the bed, and came here. I asked, "Are you here with me as revenge?" "No," Rachel said, holding my face in her hands. A tear slid down her cheek. "I've been hurt too, but we're both here because we're done with what they did to us." We slowly kissed, and then she got in bed, making room for me beside her. She adjusted herself against me and wrapped my arms around her. I kissed her once, and we were asleep. When I opened my eyes, she bent over and kissed me. It was almost noon when we got up. We showered, dressed, and went to Rachel's room. She needed fresh clothes, and as she changed, I called our lawyer. He let us know that Jason and Lisa spent the night in Lisa's bed, and the photographer had pictures from our patio, bedroom, living room, and my computer desk. I thanked him and said that would be enough. Rachel and I got in my car and drove toward Lakewood. We talked a lot. Our thoughts and words were angry, then sad, then hurt. By the time we were in Kingman, Arizona, I was only sad. Our conversation had me realize that Lisa and I had stopped loving and caring for each other quite a while ago. We both loved our kids, but not each other. Rachel came to the same conclusion about her relationship with Jason. We stayed in Kingman long enough to have dinner and then headed back to Las Vegas. Time went by, and we didn't notice. We talked about our lives, what we wanted for the next few years, and how our kids would be with our divorces. Back at my hotel, I packed and put my suitcase in my car. I checked out of the hotel and moved into Rachel's room. We joined, and she cried as we did. My John Wayne persona didn't want me to cry, but I came close to crying anyway. We made love. It was more than sex. It was being fully connected in bed with Rachel. I didn't care about any climax. I cared about being connected to her. I'd heard about being connected this way, but it had never happened to me before. After our little nap, we ordered room service and got ready to drive back to LA. When we were in the parking structure where Rachel's car was parked, she said, "What now?" I'm wondering that too. I don't want to sleep in the same bed with Jason. I want you. Rachel sat up, looked at me like I was crazy, and said, "What?" I want to wake up with you. Obviously, Jason and Lisa want each other. Let's make that happen. Honestly, damn right. Then we don't need to be angry, abandoned, hurt, or anything like it. They can have what they want, and I win. You win. Waking up every morning with you is winning. Living with you is winning. What if Jason is just fooling around with Lisa and doesn't really want her? Then they get just what they deserve, nothing. They screwed themselves out of two good people, their homes, their families. A little honesty would have been better. I need to think. Okay, drive to my office and I'll meet you there. Is that enough time to think? Let me be clear, you want us, you and me, to live together? You want all four of us to get divorced? Right. All four of us are getting divorced the day after the divorces are final. I want to marry you. Will you marry me? Too soon? No. We've known each other for years. We've only been available to even think about love for a few days. I can make the commitment right now to love you. I do love you, Rachel. Think about it as you drive to my office. Be careful. Be safe. I opened the door to her car and kissed her. The kiss was full of promises I was willing to make. She put the towel on her seat and got in as she drove away. I wondered if she would go to my office, if she would say yes, and I wondered where I was sleeping that night. Rachel was standing beside her car when I pulled into my parking lot. When I parked, she pulled my door open and somehow squeezed between my gut and the steering wheel. Yes, yes. I love you. Yes, I want to wake up with you every morning. Yes, I'll marry you, she said. She paused and filled the time with kisses. What do we do next? We need to talk to our spouses. Let me look at the GPS and see where they are. Both trackers showed they were at Rachel's house. Get in. We'll go to your house. 10 minutes. We pulled into the driveway behind Lisa's car quietly. We went in through the back door and heard the noises of sex. We walked through the house until we saw them on the living room floor. Lisa was riding Jason and was faced away from us. Jason was flat on his back, and Lisa's body blocked his view of us. I motioned Rachel onto the couch, and I sat next to her. Rachel didn't watch. A minute later, Lisa lifted off Jason, and as she did, Jason saw us. Oh, holy, he yelled. Lisa looked, saw us, and froze. A few seconds passed, and Rachel said, "You ruined my carpet." That snapped Lisa into action, and she held her clothes against her body. Jason was still flat on his back, looking at us. Perhaps you'd like a few minutes to clean up and get dressed? I asked. Oh God, Ryan, I'm so sorry. We didn't mean for this to happen, Lisa said, the words flowing quickly from her. Tears filled her eyes. We'll talk when you've cleaned up and put clothes on. Go, I said. They scrambled up and left the living room. We gathered their clothes, and I carried them down the hall to the bathroom. When the sounds told me they were in the shower, I gently opened the door and put their clothes inside. Back in the living room, Rachel was cleaning the carpet. You get to choose, I said. What? Which house we live in? Rachel asked. Do you want to live here or at my house? Why do I get to choose? Because they're the offending parties. They cheated. We get to pick. Before she could respond, Jason and Lisa walked into the room. I pointed at the other couch, and they sat at opposite ends. Rachel gave up on the spot and came over to sit next to me on the couch. Jason started to speak, but Rachel held up a hand, and he stopped. I looked at Jason and asked, Do you love my wife, or is this just sex? Jason looked down for a long time, then at Lisa, and said, I think I love her. I turned to Lisa. Lisa, do you love Jason? Her answer was quicker. Yes. If you were not married to us, would you live together? I asked. Jason spoke up. I don't want a divorce. Oh, you want my permission to keep screwing my wife? I said, glaring at him. What do you want, Jason? I wanted you to never know what we were doing. I didn't want anyone to get hurt. I don't want my marriage to end. Alex, would it be okay with you if I had an affair? Rachel asked, her voice cold and controlled, but we all heard the unspoken command behind it. No. Jason's eyes went wide as he looked at Rachel. Would it be okay with you if I had sex with Rachel right here on your living room carpet? I asked. Jason's face turned pale, and he stammered, No. I mean, it isn't supposed to be like this. Wait, are you doing my wife? No, I said firmly. I have never done that to Rachel. Wouldn't it be fair if we did it, and the two of you watched? Then you'd have some idea of what an emotional hell it was for us when we discovered we were being cheated on. Jason was visibly shaking, but he didn't respond. His gaze dropped to the floor. I'm so sorry, Ryan. I never wanted to hurt you, Lisa said through the tissue she held to her face. You did hurt me, I said coldly. The evidence says you planned and went to the Golden View at least 20 times, so the two of you could have sex with someone else's spouse. I turned to Rachel and said, I'll give you 5 minutes to get a suitcase packed. 6 minutes from now, you need to be out the door. Rachel nodded and turned to Lisa and Jason. You can make arrangements through my lawyer to come back for the rest of your stuff. If either of you comes to our homes without making arrangements through the lawyer, I will send the pictures to everyone we know, including the kids. 5 minutes, I repeated. Rachel looked at her watch. Alex, you have 5 minutes, she said sharply. Jason jumped up and disappeared into the bedroom. Lisa sat frozen, her face drained of color. Rachel counted down the time, and when she said, 1 minute, I got up and went to the bedroom door. You do not want to be in the house when time runs out, I yelled at Jason. A few seconds later, I heard the sounds of a suitcase being zipped up. Jason didn't say anything to Lisa or Rachel when he left. He just grabbed his things and fled. Lisa walked out the door, and Rachel locked up the house behind her when we left. I looked back to see if Jason would return. If Jason comes back, I said, call me, and the pictures will be online before he can get back in the house. Rachel nodded. I'll be careful. I followed Lisa out the door, and she followed my car to her house. When I opened the door and held it for her, she was crying inside. She sat down in the kitchen and sobbed. I am sorry, Ryan, she cried. Good. You should be sorry, I said, my voice cold. You started cheating with Jason in February and stopped having sex with me. Am I a bad lover? Have you hated sex with me for 22 years? She shook her head. No. I just felt so wanted and needed by Jason. You don't need me. The kids don't need me. You can do everything around here. Jason said he needed me. He doesn't want you, I said, my voice firm. He didn't even say goodbye when he left. He doesn't want a divorce. That means he doesn't want you. You were just a convenient woman for him to enjoy. You know what that makes you? I paused, watching her face twist in agony. An immoral woman who ends up alone. I hope he was very good, because it has cost you a marriage, a home, a future with me, and maybe it will cost you your children as well. Lisa sat in the chair, sobbing uncontrollably. I walked to the refrigerator, grabbed a Diet Coke, and sat across from her. When she stopped crying, I looked at my watch. You have the 5 minutes I promised. They start now. I set the timer on the oven, and I said, when that rings, don't be here. There were 20 seconds left when the door closed behind her. I watched as she got 2 suitcases into her car and drove off. I saw Jason's car follow her. Back at my office, I turned on the tracking monitor and saw they both pulled over 2 blocks from me. I turned on the audio monitor and heard a car door open. Jason's voice was muffled, but I could make out some of it. They won't really divorce us, Jason said. Yes, he will. There's no way he'll take me back. He called me a whore, Lisa sobbed. I was a good married woman, and now I'm a whore. I'm your whore. You did this to me, she continued. What will you do now? You don't even ask what we will do. We got caught, and now you abandoned me. You bastard. She started to cry harder. If I could send the pictures to your kids and not mine, I would, but I won't. I can't bear the thought of my kids seeing me with you, she sobbed. After a few more minutes, I heard the car door open and close. The muffled sound of a car starting and driving off filled the air. I shut off the audio and leaned back in my chair. My box of tissues was used up. I was angry and hurt, but I still hated that Lisa was hurting so badly. Out in the garage, I found a set of locks I'd bought a few years earlier but had never installed. I installed them, and the keys Lisa had would no longer fit my house. I called Rachel. How are you doing? I asked. It hurts. Are you coming back here? She asked. Yes. When Lisa left here, Jason met and talked with her. He abandoned her. Right now, he's driving toward your house. I'm leaving my house now, so it shouldn't be more than 10 minutes. I'll be there. Call my cell if he approaches the house, okay? Yes, Jason is bigger than I thought. He just abandoned her. He wants you, and he wants to be able to sleep around. Lisa was just for fun. He isn't getting back into my life. Not now, and not ever. Sit tight. I'll be there soon. I love you. I love you too, she said before hanging up. I drove the speed limit and pulled into the driveway. Jason's car was parked at the curb, and he was standing on the porch, talking. When I closed the car door, he stopped and turned to face me. Let me talk to Rachel. She's my wife, he yelled. No, I said firmly. She was your wife. You heard me tell you not to come back, and here you are. Remember what I said I would do? Don't do it. I just want to talk to her, Jason said. Too late, I replied. When I saw you here, I sent the pictures. I have over 100 pictures of you and Lisa. Some went to your kids, some to our friends, some to the newspapers. Everyone knows now, Jason. You wanted good sex, and now you've got more than you bargained for. Jason's face turned red. He looked around, clearly desperate, but didn't say a word. On Monday, you'll be served with divorce papers. Congratulations. You wanted a good time, and now you've lost everything. Jason was about to say something, but before he could, a police car quietly pulled up and parked 2 doors down. I stood still in a non-threatening posture, but Jason couldn't control himself. He charged at me. Before he could hit me again, 2 officers grabbed him. "I'll kill you," he screamed as quickly as they could cuff him and put him in the back of their car. Rachel came out, and we talked to the police for a few minutes. Jason continued to yell threats from the back seat of the squad car, but they drove off. When the police left, Rachel and I went inside. "Did you really send the pictures?" she asked. "No, I didn't. That wouldn't hurt just Jason. My kids will be coming next weekend for their mother's birthday. If they want to see the pictures, I'll show them. I hope they don't want to see them." "I wouldn't want my kids to see them either," Rachel said. "I wouldn't want our kids to see that part of me." I nodded, agreeing with her. "I couldn't do this without you," Rachel said, squeezing my hand. "Yes, you could," I replied, taking a deep breath. "But hopefully having me here makes it a little easier." She turned to kiss me, just as my daughter, Amanda's, car pulled into the driveway. We noticed the pizza delivery truck pulling up at the same time. "I'll set the table," Rachel said, rushing to the kitchen. I opened the front door, and Amanda's son Daniel helped carry the food inside. I paid the delivery guy. "Where's Mom?" Daniel asked, looking around the room. "I don't know," I said, my voice tired. "I'll explain everything soon." The rest of Rachel's kids arrived, and I let them in. They started in with questions, but I held up my hand, signaling for them to stop. "The food will keep," I said. "Let's all sit down in the living room, and I'll explain everything." Rachel's kids sat on one couch, and my kids sat on the other. I pointed at Rachel's favorite chair, and I got a chair from the kitchen before I could sit down. There was a knock at the door. It was Henry Hawkins, my lawyer. He handed me a thick envelope, noticed all the kids in the room, and whispered, "Good luck. Do you need me to stay?" "No, but thanks," I said as I closed the door and took my seat. "Rather than have you all asking questions, let me tell you the story. Then, you can ask anything you want," I said, looking around the room. No one moved, so I started. "A week ago, I was playing golf with some friends, and one of them mentioned that he had seen Lisa at the Golden View Hotel in the afternoon. I couldn't think of a reason she should be there. I put a GPS tracker on her car. 2 days later, she went back to the Golden View. 3 hours later, she left, and 10 minutes later, Jason White walked out the same door." I paused, letting that sink in. I got the hotel records for Jason and discovered he rented the same room every few days since January. All the kids looked at each other, and Daniel said, "That doesn't mean they were cheating." I nodded. "You're right. I hired someone to find out, hoping they weren't having an affair." I spoke to Rachel in hopes she knew some reason why Jason would be at the Golden View. Our lawyer advised we get out of town for a couple of days so we could find out for sure what was going on. Rachel spoke up. "I went to the Mirage in Las Vegas, and Ryan went to Treasure Island." The next day, when I spoke to the lawyer, he said he had pictures of Jason and Lisa at Jason's house having sex by the pool. "Are those pictures in the envelope?" Amanda asked, pointing to the envelope by my feet. "Yes," I replied. Rachel and I waited one more day before returning. The photographer got more evidence when they came here and had sex here. This is so gross, but when we came back, we found them in Rachel's house, having sex in the living room. We walked in on them and saw them on the floor. We asked if they wanted divorces so they could get together. Jason said no. Lisa said yes. We let them gather some personal items and tossed them both out. The room was silent as my kids processed everything. Finally, Amanda spoke. "Is Dad going to prison?" "He assaulted me and threatened your mother in front of 2 police officers. I would guess he will do time for that." "Mom, how long had you known that Dad was fooling around?" Daniel asked. I knew when Ryan showed me the hotel records, Rachel said. He was spending our retirement money to pay for a room at the Golden View. Damn, Daniel said. That's messed up. I nodded, taking a deep breath. Things will change now. I'm putting this house on the market. I don't need a big house like this. I don't want to move, Amanda said. I've been thinking about having a roommate. Mom, are you and Ryan lovers? Rachel's son, Eric, asked. When we were in Las Vegas, we spent a lot of time together, talking and getting to know each other, Rachel said. When we got back, I decided I'd like to give life with Ryan a go. I asked him to marry me before we discovered our spouses were cheating. We had never so much as kissed. Now, I'm proud to have Ryan as my lover and soon-to-be husband. I hope you can be okay with everything you've learned. We love each of you, I added. The room was quiet for a long time, and then Amanda stood up and came to me. She knelt down and picked up the envelope. I don't want to see these pictures, but I must, she said softly. I don't want to believe the story, but if the pictures verify it, I must. She opened the envelope and looked inside. Her hands trembled. She only looked at one picture and didn't pull it out of the envelope. That bastard, she said, handing the envelope back to me. You should have kicked his ass. I didn't say anything. Rachel's son, Eric, came over and took the envelope from me. I have to know, he said. He reached in and pulled out about 10 pictures. They were all 8 by 10 color prints, and each showed Lisa and Jason having sex. He looked at each picture in his hands and didn't say anything. Then, he put the pictures back in the envelope. Equals later, we threw the pizza and salads away. None of it got eaten. About 9, we went to a Chinese place and ate. The kids had all been friends for all their lives, and they were getting used to the idea of being in the same family. Just before the fortune cookies, my son Daniel asked, "Can we go camping this summer?" Rachel smiled and said, "Some of my fondest memories of when you were all growing up were the camping trips we took together." I was quiet for a few moments when Amanda, Rachel's daughter, looked at me and said, "Can we, Dad? Can we?" Tears slid down my face. How could she take me into her heart that quick? How could I say no? I thought. Each of them said it again. "Can we, Dad? Can we?" "Sure. Sounds good to me. Get out your calendars. Let's pick a time." When we left the restaurant, our first family campout was scheduled. The pain was still there, the disappointment was still there, but out front was the plan for a good future. That was 4 years ago. Mary never came to court, and no one has seen or heard from her. She took a cash advance on her credit card the day after she spoke to the kids on the phone and disappeared. Jason is spending 8 to 15 years in prison. None of his kids have visited him. I've never looked in the envelope again. It's in the safe in our home. We go camping as a family once a year. Some men are clueless. Jason could have had the house, kept his job, and kept enjoying Lisa. I wonder if he thinks about that. The time that passed after that first family camping trip was a blur of emotions, new beginnings, and a sense of relief that had taken root in our lives. Rachel and I, despite everything that had happened, found a way to move forward, side by side. The past 4 years had been a mix of ups and downs, but we had made it through. Our kids, despite the initial shock, had begun to adapt to the new family dynamics. I would say, with time, they even seemed to accept it, though I knew it hadn't been easy for any of them. Rachel and I had decided that our bond, forged out of betrayal and grief, would now be one of love and understanding. Daniel Brooks paused briefly, cherishing the sight of his daughter, Emma, nestled beside him on the couch, her small face lit with the concentration that only a 9-year-old could muster as she stared intently at the book resting on her knees. The sweet scent of freshly baked cookies wafted through the room, with a plate of them placed neatly on the mantel beside the familiar glass of milk. Out the window, he watched as large snowflakes swirled gracefully in the glow of the porch light, creating a picture-perfect cozy atmosphere. He let the moment linger just a bit too long. "Are we going to start?" Emma asked. "Sure," Jake said. "You go first." Emma opened the book, a book that she had owned since her 5th New Year's and no longer really needed to use, and began to read. "It was the night before New Year's and all through the house," she read. Jake took his turn. Not a creature was stirring. "Hey, you were supposed to start this year," Jake laughed. Emma had said the same thing the previous New Year's. "Too bad. he said, sticking out his tongue. Not even a mouse. Emma gave him a mock glare. Jake just smiled. Even now, for years after the accident that had claimed his wife's life, it was sometimes hard to look at Emma without seeing Rachel's blue eyes and blonde hair. And it was hard not to remember that she didn't care for the nickname that Rachel had given her. Emma returned to the book. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. Jake watched Emma turn her head to look out the window at the snow. Even in this snow-jaded part of northern Maine, this counted as a big storm. Emma's head slowly turned to the fireplace. Don't worry, Santa won't let a little snow stop him. It's snowing pretty hard, Dad. Not too hard for reindeer, honey. That's good. I had a dream about Santa last night, and he told me he was going to get me what I asked for. I hope you didn't ask for anything that wasn't in your letter, Jake said. Sort of, she said, a sly look spreading over her face. I wished for a mom. Me too, Pumpkin. I know it won't be the same, but I think we need another one, you know? Don't say you know, Emma, Jake said. 13 years of teaching high school English had left him with certain reflexes. Santa Claus doesn't usually bring people on his trips. It would be awfully cold in his sleigh. He told me he would, Emma said. Don't you like girls, Daddy? Jake smiled. Of course, I like girls, he said. I married your mom, didn't I? And we had you. Did you go on dates and stuff? Sure. We went to the movies and out to dinner, and we like taking walks together and going skating and cross-country skiing. Don't you want to do that again? If I find the right girl, sure. Well, that's what I asked Santa for, Emma said. The right girl? Santa told me to ask for anything I wanted, so I asked him for something for both of us. And what did he say? He said I would get a new mom before I got a new PlayStation. Jake laughed. That was a pretty safe bet, given the cost of new gaming platforms. I didn't even know you wanted a new PlayStation. Nothing, it just doesn't play all the new games. I see. I'd rather have a mom anyway. Well, thank you for asking, Emma, Jake said, for both of us. That was very thoughtful. Just don't be too disappointed if we don't find a woman under the tree tomorrow morning, okay? Whatever you say, Dad. I love you. I love you too. We need to finish so someone can go to bed. Yeah, right, I'm going to catch him this year. Alex for bed. Honey, Daddy's tired, and he knows who's going to be waking him up at 7. Just remember the rules. I know. I can't go downstairs before 7, but I can still sleep on the stairs, right? On the landing, Jake said with a nod. We'll get your pillow and your comforter as soon as we're done. Deal. When Jake's alarm clock went off, he looked over at the red numbers 11 p.m. Just enough time to transform the living room and still get some sleep. He got up as quietly as he could and crept out of the room. The hundreds of miniature, multicolored lights on the New Year's tree cast a festive glow on the staircase. Good thing, too, Jake thought. Without the light, he would have tripped over his daughter sleeping peacefully on the landing. He stepped over her and silently went about the bittersweet task of creating New Year's. It was something that Rachel had loved to do even before Emma was born. The old farmhouse that they had bought 10 years ago seemed to come to life at New Year's as if the other seasons of the year were simply appetizers. After Emma, the decorating had grown to occupy nearly 2 hours. Jake had scaled it back in recent years, but still spent the time necessary to convince Emma that Santa had visited. When he was finished, he toyed with the idea of taking her back upstairs. Kids that age were like rag dolls when they were asleep, but Pumpkin would be disappointed not to wake up on the stairs. It would still be dark, but in the light of the tree, she would be able to see the filled stockings, the plate where the cookies had been, and the empty milk glass. She would convince herself that she had just missed him. Next year, she would tell herself. Next year, provided nobody had spilled the beans about Santa Claus, she would catch him in the act. Jake tiptoed upstairs and returned to his bed. He was counting on 7 hours of sleep before Emma burst in to wake him up and drag him downstairs. The knock at the door was faint at first. Emma wasn't sure how long it had been going on before it finally woke her up. It grew louder and more frantic, becoming more of a banging until she quite distinctly heard a woman's voice say on the other side of the door. She glanced upstairs, wondering whether to wake her father. On one hand, that usually took a good deal of shaking. Dad was a pretty sound sleeper. On the other hand, there was the New Year's Day injunction. She could go to the bottom step, but no further until Dad was up and ready. She went to the bottom step. A quick glance at the tree brought a frown to her face. She had obviously missed him again. "Oh, please," the woman said again, her voice cracking as she gave the door a final blow with the side of her fist. Emma decided that the woman's obvious distress represented an exception to the rule. She walked over and pulled the door open a foot. The woman had turned around to stare at the snowstorm and hadn't heard the door open. She was wearing a short parka and apparently little else. Her long blonde hair flew back and forth in the wind. Her bare legs were covered with goosebumps. She was wearing high heels that added 4 inches to her height. Perhaps she was a dimwit. "Hello." The woman whipped around. She was obviously tired, and she had been crying. "Oh, thank God," she said. "My car skidded into the ditch in front of your house, and my cell doesn't work here. Could I, use your phone, please?" Emma's eyes traveled up and down the woman. "You forgot your pants," she finally pointed out. "Yeah," the woman said. "I am a little cold standing here. Honey, maybe you should have worn pants." "Sweetie, could I please come in?" the woman begged, tears forming in her eyes again. Emma rolled her eyes and let the woman into the foyer. "You're not like a dimwit, are you?" "I'm sorry," the woman said, turning around to talk to Emma. She had been staring at the tree. Emma shrugged. "You're not wearing pants, your phone doesn't work, and you crashed your car. What's your name?" "Emma." "Hi, Emma." "And Mia." "It's a long story. Could you tell me where the phone is, honey?" "In the kitchen, on the wall." Mia walked through the dining room toward the doorway to which the young girl pointed. Emma was right behind her. "Thank you," Mia said as she picked up the phone. "I'm just going to call my dad. He'll come pick me up, and you can get back to sleep. I guess Santa's been here already, huh?" "Yeah. I knew you weren't him anyway. He comes down the chimney." "That's right, Emma. Are you going to stand right here while I call?" Emma nodded solemnly. It was an old-fashioned black dial phone, one that matched perfectly the house in which Mia had found refuge. She dialed the numbers as the little girl watched. "Stupid machine," she muttered. "Dad? Mom? Dad? Mom? Mom? Are you guys there? Pick up the phone. Hello? Call me back, please." She read the number off the phone and then looked over to see that Emma's eyebrows had shot up underneath her blonde bangs. "You said a bad word," Emma said. "I'm sorry. Don't tell your parents, okay? It looks like I'm going to be here for a while." "It's only my dad," Emma said. "My mom is dead. Do you want some pants?" Sure. That would be very nice, thank you, Emma. Maybe you should wake up your father. I know where the pants are." She ran off and returned several minutes later with a pair of her father's sweatpants from the hamper in the laundry room. Her eyes widened again as Mia peeled off her coat to reveal a red silk top and red panties. "I know," Mia said with a shake of her head. "Men, you don't have something like a sweatshirt, do you?" Emma rolled her eyes one more time. Several minutes later, she had Mia properly and warmly outfitted. "You don't need to stay up any longer, Emma. Why don't you go back to bed?" Emma stared her down. "You don't want to leave me here wandering around your house, do you?" Emma slowly shook her head from side to side. "Let me try my mom's cell phone, okay? Maybe she has it near her bed, and I can wake her up." She dialed the number. "Mom, it's Mia. Thank God I got you. I'm stuck out here on Oak Street," Mia said. "Map. The road?" Mia corrected her. "Anyway, the what?" Her body seemed to sag as she listened to her mother talk. "Yeah, sure, but she listened some more." Mark had Mia look down at Emma. "He had somebody else with him when he came home." "Yeah, look, I know you never liked him." "Oh, you did not, and you were right. So when will you guys be home? The 15th? Are you serious?" "Okay, no, I have an audition on the 3rd. They'll see you guys in a while." "No, they'll be fine. As soon as this storm is over, they'll find a motel. Then I'll head back and stay with Laura or something. Have a great time. Okay? Love to Dad." Mia hung up the phone and slumped into a kitchen chair. After a few moments, she looked over at Emma. "I guess I'll be sleeping here tonight if that's okay with you." "Sure," Emma said. "You can share my bed. We only have 2 bedrooms that have heat. Come on." One of the advantages of living in a farmhouse on a long driveway was that Jake seldom saw a need to close the red and white checked curtains that Rachel had picked for their bedroom. Blinking his eyes open, He watched the big flakes of snow that were falling at a 45-degree angle outside the window. It took him only a moment to realize that it was well past dawn and that he had awakened on his own. Jake got up and pulled on his bathrobe, fully expecting to find Pumpkin still asleep on the bottom step. She was not there, however, nor was she downstairs gazing at her presence. He returned upstairs 2 steps at a time. "Pumpkin?" he asked through the closed door to her bedroom. He knocked lightly on the door and began to reach for the knob. His daughter appeared at the door, her eyes still heavy with sleep. "Shoo," she said. She put a finger to her lips and quietly pulled the door shut behind her. "You'll wake up, Mia." Jake smiled. It was the indulgent smile of a rural single parent accustomed to his only child's imaginary friends. He winked at Emma and tiptoed downstairs with her hand in his. "How about some New Year's music?" he asked when they reached the living room. "Dad, that'll wake Mia up for sure." "Geez." "Okay," Jake said after a brief pause. "Shall we start with our stockings? Without Mia?" "Of course not, honey. Tell me something. Did you and Mia stay up late last night?" "Not that late. She was pretty tired when she got here." "I see. So how about we have some breakfast?" "Sure," Emma said. "Maybe then she'll wake up." Jake stopped abruptly in the dining room, and Emma ran smack into him. "Daddy, honey, whose coat is that?" "Mia's. And those are her shoes? The high heels there?" "Yeah. Other than that, she was kind of just wearing this weird-looking underwear. I was afraid she might be some kind of dimwit." "Emma, you know I don't like you using that word." "I didn't call her a dimwit," Emma said. "I just asked her if she was a dimwit." "Emma, I know. Still, when you see her." "Anyway, she said she was cold. So I gave her some of your sweats and turned my heater up last night. Is that okay?" Jake turned and squatted down in front of his daughter. "Emma, is the woman who left this coat and these shoes here sleeping in your room? Was that bad?" "After we were in bed, she said she'd sleep on the couch, but I told her we weren't allowed downstairs before 7. Plus, I was sort of afraid she might steal my presents. Daddy's just going to look in on Mia." "Okay. Honey, why don't you go get yourself some juice, okay? Make sure you're quiet." Jake pushed open the door and was met with a blast of hot air. The small electric heater that his daughter used to supplement the house's poor heating system had evidently been running for a while. As a result, the woman in his daughter's bed had kicked off the bed covers and was lying in the bed dressed only in a red negligee and red panties. Her sweats were on the floor beside the bed. He should have stepped back and knocked on the door, but she was facing away from him on her side, and he was caught by the way her long blonde hair was splayed out on the pillow. He watched the effect of her rhythmic breathing on her slender figure. His eyes lingered on the creamy white skin, and then there were those legs, those long legs that stretched out the length of the bed, long legs that moved with sensuous slowness as they straightened and twisted toward him as he stood there watching. Long legs that suddenly disappeared beneath the comforter as the young woman yanked it up. "Mr. Brooks?" It was a shriek of embarrassment and stunned recognition as he stared into her wide blue eyes. Jake realized that he knew her as well. "Mia Johnson. Oh my God. This is your house? Oh my God. I'm sorry. Mia, I, was just making sure you were okay. Why don't you put those sweats on and come downstairs?" He backed out of the room and fled down the stairs. Back in the kitchen, Emma was breaking eggs into a bowl for him to scramble. Mia joined them in a few minutes. "Hey, Mia," Emma said. "Merry New Year's." "The same to you, honey, and, you too, of course, Mr. Brooks." "You guys know each other?" Emma asked. "Mia was in 12th grade when your mom and I first came here to teach," Jake explained. "Your mom was my first drama teacher," Mia said, smiling at the memory. "She was just so encouraging." "She means in contrast to me," Jake said. He gave me a minus. She deserved a minus. Your mom thought I was a wonderful actress. She still deserved a minus. I so did not. It was the only grade I ever got lower than a plus. That grade got me waitlisted at Berkeley College, but she got in after months of waiting. "You're an actress?" Jake and Mia both stopped to look at the young girl whose eyes had been darting back and forth between the two as if she were watching a tennis game. "That's cool," Emma went on without waiting for an answer. "Can you cook the eggs now, Dad? I'm hungry. I put in some extra for Mia." "Thank you, honey," Mia said. That was very sweet of you. Coming up, Jake said. You handle the toast, okay? Okay. Emma ran back to the pantry to get the toaster as Mia and Jake continued to talk. Look, they'll be out of here this morning, Mr. Brooks. Like I said, I didn't know it was your house. It turns out my parents are on some cruise in the Caribbean, but I'm sure I can get somebody to pull me out of your ditch. Have you looked outside yet? No, Mia said. Her eyes drifted toward the window. That's a bad word, Emma said, returning with the toaster. I'm sorry, Emma, she said. How old are you? Honey? I'm 8. How old are you? I'm 30. Okay, Emma said. Were you telling Daddy why you came to visit us in your underwear? She was just about to, Jake said with a smile. He poured a dollop of milk into the bowl and turned on the burner. Mia gave Jake a glare before deciding how to proceed in Emma's presence. Maybe we could just say that my boyfriend and I had a disagreement last night, so I left the house without really thinking and headed home. Well, I think you're going to be stuck here for at least the next 3 days, Jake said. So where do you live? I did live in Philadelphia, Mia answered. I'll have to find something else when I get back. It was his place? Before your dish? Emma asked. My what, honey? You told your mom you had a dish on the 3rd. An audition, Mia corrected her. I can stay with a girlfriend until then. Laura. That's right, Mia said. She remembers everything she hears, Jake said. So be careful what you say around her. All right. Pumpkin, start toasting and he'll start cooking. So what are you auditioning for? A play by Matthew Whitman. Betrayal. Don't tell me you're auditioning for Catherine. As a matter of fact, I am. You say it like there's something wrong with it. And how do you know about it anyway? It's brand new. It's not as new as you think. I saw it back in college when he was still working on it. It's just never been to Broadway before. And there's nothing wrong with Catherine. She's the pretty one, right? Gets the guy. Lives happily ever after. That's right. But you'd make such a much better Stephanie. Stephanie? Mia screwed up her face. But Stephanie is a whack job. She's also the emotional center of the play, Jake said. That's been your issue all along, Mia. What are you talking about? Rachel loved your acting, the way you could command a stage and draw an audience's attention. But you always went for the pretty girl roles. You're saying I'm not pretty? Mia asked. I think you're pretty, Emma interjected. She was now toasting her 3rd set of bread as Jake divided the eggs up among 3 plates he had taken down from the cupboard. Of course, you're pretty, Jake said. You're a beautiful woman, Mia. But pretty girl actresses are a dime a dozen. You could be such a good actress, a real actress doing real acting. There are lots of women who can play Catherine and do a good job, but there aren't many actresses who can play Stephanie. If I'm such a good actress, how come you gave me a minus? Mrs. Brooks gave me an A+. Rachel taught a drama class. I taught a literature class about drama, and in my class, you never applied yourself like you did in hers. Can we open presents now? Emma asked. Jake and Mia looked over at Emma. Her plate was empty, while the plates of the 2 adults held scrambled eggs that were growing colder by the minute. Honey, Mia and I are going to be arguing all morning at this rate, Emma complained. So maybe we could go into the living room, and you guys could finish yelling at each other there. Pumpkin, we're not yelling. We're just having a discussion. Yeah, right, Emma said with a snort. It had seemed like such a good idea asking Santa Claus for a new girlfriend for Daddy. She hoped he hadn't screwed up her other presents this badly. I tell you what, you go on ahead, and Mia and I will finish our eggs. We'll be right behind you, and then we can open our presents. Emma raised her eyebrows and gave her father a skeptical look. We won't even talk about grades or acting. Okay, honey? Mia said. Emma gave a quick nod and dashed into the other room. What a sweetie, Mia said as they returned to their breakfasts. Yeah. Thank you for the card you sent after Rachel died. By the way, I still have it somewhere. It meant a lot to me that you wrote about her teaching. She was my favorite teacher, Mia mumbled. Even more than my professors in college. That means a lot too. Well, we'd better not keep Emma waiting. Have you had enough? Yes, thank you, Mr. Brooks. I think you can call me Jake now, Mia. Shall we see if Emma has managed to keep from peeking? Opening the Brooks family New Year's presents took no more than 15 minutes from beginning to end. One of them was a board game, and Emma wasted no time in insisting that her father and her new friend play it with her. The morning passed in high-spirited competition that ended with Mia claiming the win. Jake escaped his daughter's demand for a rematch by noting that the turkey had to go in the oven, so Emma and Mia played a second time. Emma skipped into the kitchen a while later, loudly proclaiming her victory. Mia followed a few minutes afterward, having replaced the game pieces in the box. "Dinner should be ready around 2, Jake said. "Mia, some of my clothes might fit you unless you'd rather wear sweats all day. Or if you have clothes in your car, I'd be happy to go out and get them for you." "I wish," Mia said. "Maybe if you have some jeans or something, that would be great, Mr. Brooks." "Jake, actually, I'd like to run out to my car and get my script since it looks like I'm going to be trapped here for a few days anyway." "Yay," Emma cheered. "Because you're Mia," Mia said. "What are you afraid of?" The words. "AA 304? Maybe you'd feel more comfortable with the woman of loose morals." Emma giggled as she watched her father read from the script that he and Mia shared. "Okay," Jake said. "Alex for a break, and time for you to go to your bedroom, pumpkin, and watch one of your new DVDs." "But I want to watch you guys," Emma protested. "I know, honey, but it's an adult play, and Mia and I need to talk." "Talk? Fine," Emma said with an exaggerated sigh. She stomped off upstairs without any intention of putting the DVD into her portable player. "Do you want some water, Mia?" Jake offered. "Thanks. That would be great. And thank you so much again for reading with me. It's so much better with somebody else. And you sure are getting into Stephanie. I can't believe you would prefer to be Catherine. Stephanie is so much better of a role." "I know that, but I've never done anything like Stephanie." "I know," Jake said with as much gentleness as he could. "Maybe it's time for you to try, though. You'd like that, wouldn't you?" Mia nearly spat the words at Jake. "You could sit in your suburban house and look out the window at your Honda and your little dog and your 2.3 children and think how much better your life is than mine." Jake opened his mouth to answer, but Mia had a full head of steam. "Have yourself a stupid party. Invite the neighbors over. Look at my sister, everyone. Look at the loser. She can't stay off drugs. She can't stop drinking. She can't even satisfy herself." Jake had the next line but found that he was watching the tears running down Mia's face. A giggle from the top of the stairs broke the mood. "Pumpkin," Jake growled. "I wasn't listening," Pumpkin protested. Jake and Mia heard the patter of feet in the hallway and the slamming of Emma's door. They both burst into laughter. "That was wonderful," Jake said. "It's hard," Mia said after a deep breath. "Of course it's hard. That's what makes it good." "Thank you, Jake. Thank you for encouraging me to do this. I still don't know if he'll be able to audition for Stephanie, but I've learned a lot just reading it." "Mia, you just walk in there and you say, 'Look, I realize I'm here to read for Catherine, but I'd rather read for Stephanie.' All they can do is say no." She took another breath. "Okay, Jake. I'll try." She leaned over and gave him a kiss on the cheek. "Take the chance, Mia," Jake said. "Sometimes you just have to take the chance. And God bless Daddy and Mommy in heaven and our new friend Mia, who could maybe stay just one more day." Mia laughed out loud as Emma opened one eye from her position kneeling beside the bed. "It's been 4 days already," she said. 2 days after New Year's, just when it looked as if the county would be arriving any minute to clear the road. The next storm had dumped another 1.5 feet of snow. "Don't you want your bed back, honey? I feel bad making you share with me for another night. You would stay longer if you and Daddy didn't spend all day arguing," Emma pouted. Mia laughed again. "You know perfectly well that it's a play, Emma. The characters in the play do a lot of arguing. All I know is for the first 2 days, Dad did most of the yelling, and then you switched, and you started yelling. Sweetie, I was planning on reading for the part of Catherine, who doesn't yell much. So when we started reading, your father did most of the yelling. But he sort of convinced me to try out for the part of Stephanie, who yells a lot. So we switched parts halfway through. So you're not mad at Dad?" "Oh no," Mia said, a gleam in her eyes. She knew that Emma wouldn't understand. "Not at all. And Daddy's not mad at you?" "I hope not, honey," Mia said. A smile flitted over her face. "That would make for a most unpleasant night. Ready for bed?" "You bet. Good night, Mia." "Good night, Emma." Mia heard Jake go to bed half an hour later. She waited another half an hour before slowly pushing herself off Emma's bed. The little girl was in a deep sleep, a smile on her lips. It was her father's smile, that crooked grin that she had become very fond of over the last few days. It was a smile that she hoped to see again in just a few minutes. She would do without the high heels. It was much easier to tiptoe barefoot on the soft pine floor. The heels were still downstairs anyway. She crept out of the room and pulled the door closed behind her. The door to Jake's room was ajar, and Mia eased it open. The light of a crescent moon illuminated the figure on the bed. Jake was sleeping on his back. He had built up the fire in the wood stove before he came up, and the heat in the living room below poured up through the grate in the floor, so he had no need for the heavy quilt at the bottom of his bed. Instead, his body was outlined underneath only a flannel sheet. With exquisite care, Mia leaned over and pulled it down. Her former teacher was sleeping in a pair of loose-fitting pajama bottoms and looked delicious in the moonlight. She put one knee on the bed and stopped, her heart beating wildly as Jake mumbled and shifted his position. Finally, he stopped. Mia climbed onto the bed, lifting her other leg to straddle Jake's calves. Sometimes, she thought to herself, you have to take the chance. She leaned forward and kissed him softly on the tip of the chin and then again on his shoulder. He didn't move, and she began to kiss him. Rachel, Jake's moan startled her. She hadn't even realized that his fingers were entwined in her hair. Was it good or bad that he was dreaming about his late wife? Was he going to be angry when he woke up and found that it was her? She kept kissing his neck, but the patience he had shown with her over the last 4 days, his careful efforts to help her look deep within the wannabe starlet and awaken the real actress that lurked inside, demanded that she take no less time with him. She tried to get close to him when she heard Mia. A thrill coursed through her body. Jake's voice was still heavy with sleep. He was dreaming about her now. Mia, she opened her eyes, and she could tell from his voice that he was awake. She looked up at him. Had she fallen asleep? Had she fainted? Her eyes held his, waiting for him to chastise her, to express his shock, to order her out of his house. He looked at her for what seemed forever. Her stomach was fluttering again. Her breaths were coming quickly. I want to be with you, he finally said. It was perfect. She felt faint again. She lay her head against his thigh and just let herself feel. Jake reached down and grabbed hold of her shoulders. Come here, love, he said, giving her a gentle tug. She looked up at him with a smile. Flurries were swirling around the late 90s Honda Accord that was headed south on the Ohio Turnpike over the school's Labor Day weekend at the early September. Are we there yet? Has the car stopped? No. Then we're probably not there yet, Jake said. He looked over at Emma in the passenger seat. Only another half hour, honey, and then we go to the play. First we go to a party. Uncle Alex always has a party before his plays. But Mia will be there for a little while. Then she'll have to go get ready. Where's the party? At Berkeley College, where Mia went to college. Where she was waitlisted. Waitlisted, Jake said with a laugh. Yes. It means that they haven't decided about whether to let you in or not. In her case, she did get in. Even though you gave her a bad grade. Well, I did make a phone call for her, Jake said, looking over and giving Emma a wink. Your grandpa knew a guy in the admissions office, so I let him know that I didn't think the grade really reflected her potential. That was nice of you, Dad. Your daddy can be nice, you know? Look, you can see Chicago. See the skyscrapers. Wow. I don't believe it. The tall, bearded man in the jacket and dark turtleneck stared at the couple walking toward him. The younger of the two broke free and ran toward him. Uncle Alex. Pumpkin. He bent down and caught her as she threw her arms around his neck. Hello, Matthew. Jake approached at a much more sedate pace. I can't believe you're here. I thought I'd given up sending you invitations since you never came anymore. After. You did take me off your list, Jake assured him as they embraced. I got an invitation from your star tonight. Diana. Diana is not your star, Jake scoffed. Alex smiled. Well, she does have top billing, he said. You know Mia? She was one of my first students. Rachel too. Is she here yet? Not yet. No. Well, that explains a lot. You wouldn't believe her audition. Her agent puts her up for Catherine, and she comes in looking gorgeous, and I look up and look back down, and then she says, Mr. Whitman, I'd like to read for the part of Stephanie. Jake smiled. And she had it, Alex said. Right then, she had that quality in her voice. I didn't even need to hear her read the part, but once she did, it was even better. Of course, Mia and Dad yelled at each other all New Year's. Emma piped up. Did they? Alex asked. Your daddy was the first director of this play when we were in college together. Oops, my mistake. There she is over there. Mia. Jake watched Emma take off again. He desperately wanted to follow. He and Mia had talked a few times since she left, and he had been the first one she had called when she learned she had gotten the role, but he didn't want to look desperate. That's not Diana she's with, is it? He asked Alex. No, that's her understudy, Sophie Edwards. Jake nodded. You took a chance casting Mia. The other woman is a more typical Stephanie. She's got a sort of edge to her. The poor woman seems to despise life. That's MIA's only problem. Too damn happy. I asked Sophie to be my picador tonight. Your picador? You know, the guy who sticks the bull before the matador takes over. Sophie is supposed to give Mia a little go tonight. She was doing a good job. In the last 3 minutes, she had managed to suggest, without being overtly offensive, that the only reason Mia had gotten the job was that she had been close to the play's producer. Mia was quietly fuming, searching her brain for a snappy retort when she heard Emma's yell. She too knelt down to accept Emma's embrace. She looked up to see Jake. Not wanting to appear desperate herself, she decided not to run over there. Instead, she introduced Emma to Sophie and explained how they had met. And that's your father over there? Sophie asked, talking to Mr. Whitman. Uncle Alex. Your uncle? Sophie asked with malicious glee. Not really my uncle, Emma explained solemnly. The malicious glee in the voice of MIA's friend had gone completely over her head. He and Dad went to school together. Well, that explains a lot, Sophie said. What are you talking about? Mia was getting angry now. Somebody made a phone call, that's all. I read for this part, Mia said between gritted teeth. Your little suggestion that Dad made a phone call, Emma said. Sophie laughed aloud. What? Mia asked her. Emma looked up at her with wide eyes, uncertain of the look she was getting. Daddy told me he made a phone call for you. Son of a, Mia said. She looked over at where Jake was talking with Alex. Her reservations about going over there had disappeared. You stupid son of a, she said, trembling as she stood in front of him. What? You made a phone call, you son of a, she spat. She threw her drink in his face. For good measure, she added a slap to his cheek before storming off. That's perfect, Alex said. What? Jake asked. That's the attitude I need. She's going to slay them tonight. But she thinks I called you, Jake said. She obviously thinks I got her the part. You and your goddamn picador. Tell her tomorrow, pal. Let her read tonight's reviews first, okay? Jake nodded. He sat in the audience that night and was slain. Jake sat alone at the restaurant in the late summer sun. School was beginning in another week, and he and Emily would have precious few weekday evenings together for the next few months. She had just started teaching French last year, and it had taken Jake until a few days before the end of the spring semester to agree to her repeated intimations that she would love to be asked out. She was a very attractive brunette. Her only flaw in Jake's eyes was her youth. At 27, she was 12 years younger than Jake. Finally, though, on the day after Mia accepted a Tony Award in the company of an actor who had looked just as pretty as Mia when they had been standing together on the red carpet, he gave in to her almond eyes, her auburn hair, and her winning smile. Emma hated her at first, of course. She wasn't Mia. Even now, Emma still wasn't overly fond of his new girlfriend and didn't understand why Mia didn't call anymore. Hadn't she and Daddy made up? Jake had lied to her. He told her that he had explained the misunderstanding, but that Mia was just too busy with her play. The truth was that while the reviews of Betrayal had been good, the reviews of the performance of Mia Johnson were over the top. He couldn't tell her he was afraid of taking that away. It was her dream to act, to get reviews like that. Whatever she had felt for him that night that she had crept into his room, she would get over it, just as Emma would get over her. Emma and Emily had spent the afternoon together bonding, with any luck over a mutual love of bicycling. He looked at his watch again. They would be here any minute now. Jake? He looked up. Mia Johnson looked even lovelier than usual. She was wearing an electric blue blouse that stretched and bunched in all the right places. It topped a pair of black pants that appeared glued to her shapely legs. He jumped to his feet. Mia, this is my mom and dad. This is Daniel Brooks. The Mr. Brooks who gave you the minus? Jake and Mia couldn't resist smiling at each other. Never let that go. Did you? I never did, even though I called Berkeley College and explained it. You called them? Sure. And that was the only phone call I've ever made. MIA's mouth dropped open. Oh God, of course it was. That was the phone call Emma was talking about. Mia, Mrs. Johnson said with disapproval. Mia turned to Jake and rolled her eyes out of her parents' sight. Alex told me last week that you hadn't called him to lobby for me getting the part the minute after I left the play last weekend. Why didn't you tell me? Jake shook his head. You were too good. You got a Tony Award. I couldn't. He could see tears welling in MIA's eyes. Mia, Emma's shout caught the attention of every other customer in the restaurant. She was standing at the door holding Emma's hand. At Emma's insistence, all 6 of them had dinner together. It was as uncomfortable an evening as he could remember. At the end, Mia went home with her parents. He went home with Emma, and Emily went home by herself. Did you have fun? Jake asked Emma. She nodded vigorously. For her early November birthday, she had asked to be allowed to spend an entire week alone with Rachel's parents down in Westchester County. He had driven her down there on Wednesday afternoon, and they had driven her back on Saturday. They had just driven off after an early supper and left Emma and Jake alone. It was great. We went into Chicago and rode a ferry and went to the zoo, and she stopped abruptly, her eyes wide. Honey, you can tell me, Jake said. You went to MIA's show, didn't you? Emma nodded again, much more slowly. Mia Johnson was the star of a brand new musical, Understudy, which had opened to rave reviews a month earlier. You're not upset, honey? Of course not. I was the one who called her to get the tickets for you. She's our friend. Was it good? More nodding followed. Oh, Dad, it was so good. The words rushed from her mouth. She plays Cinderella's stepsister, and she sings and dances and everything. We got to go back to her dressing room and see her costumes, and Grandma and Grandpa thought she was great, and we talked about it and sang the songs all the way back home. So did Emily come over? It was such an abrupt change that it took him a second to answer. We decided to see other people. Pumpkin. She thinks I like somebody else. Emily had been waiting for him when he got back on Wednesday, dressed in a white nightie that was transparent enough to hide none of her young charms. It's been months, she moaned as he peeled it over her head. They were in each other's embrace, and after a minute, she pushed herself off. This isn't going to work, she said. It's not? You're just really not into me. Are you? I am, Jake protested. I've been thinking about getting together with you for a month now, ever since I knew Emma would be away. He reached for her again, and she stepped back off the bed. Emily, what's bothering you? You want to know what's bothering me? It's your actress friend, Mia. I saw the way you guys were looking at each other at that restaurant. Emily, that was 2 months ago, and you haven't spoken to her since? Well, no. I called her to get tickets for Emma and Rachel's parents to go to her new show. You couldn't just buy them off the internet? Emily, what's wrong? You're in love, Jake, and not with me. And God knows I've had plenty of guys that I knew didn't really love me, but not any who I knew loved another woman. Jake was dumbfounded. By now, Mia was a lovely memory, not to mention a wonderful fantasy. But the woman was a Broadway star, dating who knew what athlete or actor. But he was aware that the moment to protest that no, of course he wasn't in love with Mia Johnson, had already passed. Emily began pulling on the clothes she had brought with her. Emily, spare me, Jake. Spare both of us. I had a good time over the summer. What with school and your daughter and everything, we both knew it would be tough to keep it going this fall. Your actress friend is still there in your mind. I hope she's there for you in real life too. You should ask her. You know, I saw the way she looked at you. That's silly, Jake protested. Emily shrugged. So was that story of her showing up at your house last New Year's. But it was true, right? She had finished dressing and was out the door with a quick kiss on his cheek. The memory was fading already. I'm sorry, Daddy, Pumpkin said, interrupting his thoughts. I know you liked her. That's okay, Pumpkin. She just wasn't the right girl. So who do you like? Jake smiled at his daughter. Nobody. Emma. Do you like Mia? Jake felt himself blushing, something he hadn't done in a long time. Of course I do, sweetie. She's our friend. I'm glad you had a good time. It was wonderful. Only, Only what? We met her boyfriend, Emma said. MIA's boyfriend? Jake said. He felt a shiver run through him. Yeah, he's nice. He's got like $1 billion or whatever in his own plane. He does some kind of investments. Investments? Yeah. Anyway, he really likes Mia. Well, of course. She's a wonderful person. I wish you were her boyfriend, Daddy. I guess I'm just not the right guy for her, Jake said with a sad smile. Now someone needs to get ready for bed because someone has school tomorrow morning. Emma threw her arms around his neck. Thank you for my birthday present, Daddy, she whispered. You're welcome, Pumpkin. The snow returned in early January. Flurries were swirling outside the grocery store on the 15th as Jake and Emma stood in line to buy the ingredients for their New Year's feast. Daddy, look. Jake followed his daughter's pointing finger across the store, but saw nothing that should have produced the horrified look on the little girl's face. No, Dad. Right here. She poked the tabloid on the stand directly in front of her. It wasn't the main headline, but a small picture of Mia and a good-looking guy in the bottom right-hand corner of the cover was plastered with the headline understudy to marry. MIA's getting married? Emma asked in a small, hesitant voice. I guess so, Jake said. Can we buy it, Dad, so I can read it in the car? Sure, Pumpkin. Emma wasted no time in finding the article, in truth a mere squib in a gossip column, after she was buckled into her seat for the trip home. Sarah Lewis, the publicist for understudy star Mia Johnson, confirms that the Tony Award-winning actress plans to marry over the New Year's vacation. She's going to take a week off from the show for the honeymoon, Adler said. What can I say? She's in love. Neither Johnson nor her boyfriend, Playboy David Carter, was available for comment. The whirlwind romance has been the talk of Broadway for the last 2 months. I can't believe it, Emma said. Why not, honey? She didn't tell us or anything, Emma whined. It's not like we're her family, Emma. We should be. At 8, Emma hadn't yet learned how to mutter under her breath so that no one else could hear. Jake found that he too was wondering what would have happened if things had worked out differently. He took a quick look over at Emma, resolving then and there to buy her the one present that she had been asking for and that he had so far been able to resist buying. Okay, Jake said. You go first. No, Dad, this year you go first. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. His little girl was growing up. In the coming year, she would probably learn the truth about Santa Claus. Well, Emma asked, are we going to start? Sure. It was the night before New Year's, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. Yes, the stockings were hung by the chimney with care. Are you sure you don't want to put up our regular stockings, Emma? Together they looked at the fireplace. In place of the usual red felt boots, Emma had insisted that Jake hang 2 fishnet thigh-high stockings that she claimed to have borrowed from Jake's sister the week before. Aunt Beth said the bigger the stockings, the more presents you got, Emma said. Jake smiled as they continued reading. Fortunately, he had purchased a number of small presents this year. With luck, he would be able to fill Emma's stocking without having her think that Santa had cheated her on the presents under the tree. When they were finished reading, Emma took her place on the landing and was asleep within minutes. A few minutes later, Jake stepped over her and climbed the stairs to his own room. His alarm went off at 11, and he was stunned not to see Emma where he had left her. Sure that she had simply crawled back into her room, he descended the stairs, and there she was, sitting on the hearth, wearing the stockings along with the same red glagee and panties she had been wearing last year. A cheery fire crackled behind her. Jake walked over to stand in front of her. Mia, he said with disbelief. Mia Johnson. But you're getting married. She gave him a sexy smile. I am. But what about Martin? Martin realized that I was in love with someone else. But the article never said I was marrying Martin, Mia said with a giggle. You need to read more carefully, Professor. I didn't read it. Emma did. She read it to me while we were in the car. She was devastated. Mia laughed and patted the hearth beside her. Jake sat down, and Mia gave him a long, lingering kiss. Silly man. She set this up. She called me on Halloween and told me that you liked me, and I liked you, and we should just stop seeing these stupid other people and get married. And I couldn't think about anything else. That's when Martin and I broke up. So I called Emma and made some arrangements for New Year's Eve. You mean she knew the article was a fake? Jake asked. Mia nodded. So I bought her that PlayStation for nothing. Mia laughed again. I guess acting runs in the family, she said. By the way, she's at my parents' tonight. My mom drove me over here and took Emma back with her after she let me in. But what about Santa Claus? Jake, she knows about Santa Claus. She was the one who suggested lighting the fire. And she told me it was more fun getting your present herself. My present? Mia held out her arms. Would you like to unwrap it? It was Jake's turn to smile. You took quite a chance believing Emma, didn't you? About my loving you, coming here, and waiting for me. Sometimes you have to take the chance, Mr. Brooks. I do love you, Jake. I love you too, Mia. I only have one question. What's that? When Emma was leaving tonight, she told me it was my poem. Now, what was she talking about? Does she know any poems? Jake shook his head. Other than the one we read earlier tonight. No. Which poem is that? The night before New Year's. I always read it so that it was not even the mouse that was stirring. Mia started giggling. A moment later, she rolled off the hearth onto the floor, clutching at her stomach. What? Jake asked. Not a creature was stirring. Not even a pumpkin, she prompted. The stockings were hung by the chimney, Jake continued. With Mia, she blurted out. He joined her on the floor. When they finished laughing, they embraced under the glow given off by hundreds of tiny multicolored lights. Thanks for watching. What would you do if a snowstorm brought someone special back into your life? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.